Fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the troubling events of the past week.
I'm going to pull the whole thing down. I'm going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's going to be biblical.
How's it going, everybody? FCB here. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing fantastic. And I hope you're all in amazing spirits. Welcome to the Pulse here on the Freedom Channel broadcast and FCB podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, lots going on. Now, just to let you know why I've been delayed, I've been in the process of implementing new tech. So that way I can bring in a show every day and bring you a more precise, more concise, shall we say, get straight down to it show. Okay, so there is some new tech that's been implemented and there may be a bit of, shall we say, flickering on screens and stuff like that. I'm just giving you the heads up because I am, as I said, I'm combining new tech with old tech. And as you know, when things like that happen, you've got to make sure that everything sort of works seamlessly. And, you know, as I said, we're in the transition period. So, you know, just bear with me. So guys, lots going on, as I said before. President Trump has gone out there and declared that, you know, he's won Iran. I mean, Iran's his now. Then there's all this, I mean, look, there's gaslighting, guys. I mean, you know, hey, it's all been done by design to obviously awaken the mass consciousness. And as we know, pain is necessary. So, you know, that obviously that's how you awaken the sleepwalker. You get them to be agitated, angry, that sort of thing, you know, and that's what's happening right now. So President Trump's out there saying, hey, we've got Iran. They're sending us this gift. You heard about the gift, 10 ships full of oil heading towards God knows where. And apparently there's some people in Iran that are with President Trump and they're sending in the oil and all that sort of business. But then you got Iran on the other hand that says something else. You got Iran that's saying basically that they've wiped off every United States Middle Eastern base out of existence. And then there's soldiers running around the place and they're saying, if you see a US soldier, let us know about it. And it's like this, you're getting all this conflicting information. Then you got Israel saying that they've taken down the head of the Navy. And you got to know something, ladies and gentlemen, is this. Number one, you take one down, it's easily replaced. That's how it works. Now, people are saying, oh, let's get rid of Netanyahu. Yeah, there's someone worse, Bennett, right? So you get rid of Netanyahu, Bennett is even worse than Netanyahu. Okay, Bennett is saying that Netanyahu ain't doing enough killing. He ain't doing enough, you know. So you got people that are worse than the devil that you know, so to speak. Then you got all this other gaslighting going on, apparently that, yes, no, that the Ayatollah Khamenei Jr. is gay, right? And you got this is all out in the mainstream media. Daily Mail put it out there. Then all of a sudden it's on the New York Post. Then President Trump said it recently at a cabinet meeting. Then he jumped on the number 5, what do you call on Fox, you know, with Jesse Waters and the gang, Milk Toast, and all the rest of them. And he's sitting there, they're talking about them being gay, and they're laughing about, well, hold on a minute. Number one, have you heard of the saying, you cut your nose to spite your face, right? Well, have a look at President Trump's cabinet. There are a lot of people on his cabinet that are gay. Have a look at Scott Bessent. He's gay, and there are others that are gay as well. So they're saying that, and then President Trump says that, I got, great support from the gays when I got voted in, all that sort of thing. So there's all this rhetoric going on, Then you got Vance saying at the cabinet meeting about, wishing well the Christians over there in the Middle East and that are fighting over there. But hold on a minute. You got Team Israel over there that have, shut down, Old Jerusalem and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is closed for business. Okay. Now why don't you go and talk about that one? There's just so much hypocrisy. And then you got President Trump throwing Pete Hegseth under the bus consistently. And it's like, yes, we know that Pete's getting thrown under there. But then there's also the exposure of Israel. Never before has Israel been that exposed. Have a look at what's going on. Now they're going into and creating the greater Israel. So have a look what's going on there over there. They're going out there and they're taking over Lebanon. They're blowing up bridges and they're doing exactly what the Nazis did back in the day. The things that they talk about, they use the Holocaust as their little savior card. Anyone that talks against whatever they're doing, okay, their genocides and everything else, you're going to be called an anti-Semite. They're going to use the victim card. They're going to use the Holocaust card. And they're doing exactly what they're doing, what was happening in the days of the Holocaust. What the Nazis were doing. That's part of the Nazis' playbook. I mean, after all, they're Ashken Nazis, right? So it should all make perfect sense. And they're destroying bridges, and no one can get in and nobody can get out. So that's what they do when they want to eliminate areas and take control over areas. Think about that. So no one can get in and out. No one can get in there, like the press and all that, and see exactly what's going on. And they can do what they did in Gaza. This is exactly what's happening. And the greater Israel is about expanding into Lebanon. And you're seeing it happening there right now as we speak. So Joe Ken has also gone out there on a press spree. He's going out everywhere and he's just spreading the word about how Israel give their intelligence to the United States. So based on what he's saying, can we trust anything that is being said? Because if they're getting their information from the Mossad, from Israel, you can't trust a damn thing because it can be manipulated like they do. They manipulate everything. They're doing false flags all over the place. Have a look. False flags in London. False flags here, false flags there. Have a look around you. And then they use the victim card, when the Iranians, have you seen the difference? So when the Iranians bomb them, they're bombing strategic targets, military installations, because that's where they put them. They put those military installations, and surrounding them is all the hospitals, all the apartments, all that sort of stuff, civilian, shall we say, infrastructure that is the human shield. So what's happening is every time Iran does something, they use the power of the mainstream media, their sellouts. Then they got those in Parliament or in Congress that basically amplify this narrative that the Israelis are the victims, the Zionists are the victims, and they play this game. And they've been doing it for way, way, way too long. And then at the same time, as they're playing the victim, they're going around committing genocide. It's disgusting and disgraceful, to be quite honest. And people are waking up. They could see it. They could see this anti-Semitic rhetoric that just keeps going on and on and on. And they're using it as a weapon. They're using the anti-Semite label, the Holocaust. In fact, there was some pedophile, think about this, in the United States that happens to be a Zionist, that he was going around, it was a pediatrician. Yes, pediatrician, we're going to speak about him, in the United States, a Zionist, and he was committing, things that he shouldn't be doing, which we know is to do with children. And then he blamed it on the Holocaust. How does that work? How does that work? How can you blame pedophilia on the Holocaust? It just seems to me this is like it's getting to a point of ridiculousness, but it's also awakening a lot of humanity up. Another thing is that these things in Israel, these bombings that are taking place in in Israel. Iran's bombing Israel, and then what's happening is they don't trust each other. Oh, yes. They don't trust each other. They're walking around with guns, so they make sure that their fellow Israelis don't go and steal their stuff. That's how much trust they have in each other over there. But there's so much of this anti-Semitic rhetoric, that's going on. And think about this. They're doing this deliberately. And there's a lot of this dirtying the waters. So, in other words, what happens is, when you got this sort of rhetoric, I'll explain what's going on. You can see that they're saying here, the Jews did this, and they're pointing to the pump, right? Right there. Right? They're pointing to the pump. You can see it. To the price over there. What is that doing? It's further putting the Jews and painting them with a Zionist brush. That's exactly what it's designed to do. So they're blaming the Jews and the Jews, because there's the Zionists, the ones that follow that ideology. Then people got to get, what does Jew mean? What is a Jewish? What does being Jewish mean? It's the religion. Where did that come from? Judea. West, where the West Bank is, you've got Judea and Samaria. It's a region. Now, at the end of the day, people don't know what Jewish means. They think it's a race. They think it's a religion or both. No, it's a religion. It comes from Judaism. The problem is that people that are against Israel, you're seeing them out there in the streets, I will call them the real Jews, the ones that really are into Judaism and don't follow Zionism, are being sucked into this same brush. So they're being painted with this thing. And they could be against it. That's the thing. They're over there. They've been going out there in the streets and saying, we're against all this. We're against all these atrocities. Because before the formation of Israel, it was Palestine. That's a fact. You can't dispute it. Now, before it was Palestine, okay, the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians used to live in harmony. They used to call each other brothers and sisters. Now, guess what's happened? These entities, these Zionists, this ideology that comes from, not that long ago, over 100 years ago, has sucked everything in. That's the problem. So then what is this doing? This is actually working in the Zionists' favor. Because then they say, see, they will say, see, we're there to protect you and you're going against us. Meaning the real Jews, so to speak. That's the problem. And there's so much of this problem because we've got also Sky News. People think Sky News is it tells the truth and all that. They're under Rupert Murdoch. And we know that Rupert Murdoch is a Zionist. They're going out there fueling the flames of anti-Semitism constantly. Okay? They're saying here about what's going on with these this whole thing in London about the Jewish community ambulances being taken. Now, what if there were Muslim community ambulances? Would they be going to making a fuss about it? No, they wouldn't. This is the problem, ladies and gentlemen, that the mainstream media continue to play the rhetoric of the anti-Semite card, and we know who's really in control. They are. They control this whole thing. And then you got Speaker Mike Johnson that's pulling the anti-Semite thing again. The weakness of leadership. Our nations, let's have a look at this. Our nations at universities has emboldened hatred and allowed campuses to devolve into hotbeds of radical anti-Semitism. Now, hold on a minute. Anti-Semitism, what is it? Is it just to do with against the Jews, so to speak? I thought the executive order, or, the law that they passed was to do with everybody, Christians and Muslims. But no. You could see that it's a one-sided story right there. And you got Mike Johnson that is basically a sellout. He's under APAC, and it's not about left and right. They all serve the same beast. So they're using Congress. They're using mainstream media. They're using social media as well. Anyone that speaks against them is cut off at the knees. You're cut off on YouTube. You're cut off everywhere. And it can all be proven to be factual. That's the thing. You can prove everything to be factual. But that doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference at all. That's the problem. You can sit there and they call it anti-Semitism, hate speech, so forth and so forth. And yet, when you talk about something like, they talk about Muslims, you got the people that talk hate and speak against Islam, or they hate and speak against Christianity, like Mr. Ted Cruz in the guise of being a Christian, saying it when Jesus is king, that's like saying you're an anti-Semite. If you say that the Jews, and it does say it in scripture, killed Jesus, the Jews and the Romans, that's anti-Semitic as well. So you're being gaslit as well, over and over again. So we've got think about this, the establishment. The establishment isn't just the government. The establishment is everything. The establishment is education. So through the education system, we've been made to believe that Israel is the Holy Land. No, it was Palestine. Then we're made to believe through the churches, through religion, that Israel is the Holy Land. Again, Israel. Israel was Jacob. That's all it was. It was never the state of Israel. It never existed. It was Palestine. That's fact. Now, it's the same rhetoric. Even education, you've been educated to believe, indoctrinated. Then you've got the religion aspect through the church, through the religion, that you've been told that Israel is the Holy Land, and anything to do with Israel is off, anything that goes against it is basically going against God. Do you see how it works? And then you've got also the government. So the government implementing it. So they're all working in together in unison. That's what the problem is. Then you've got also these podcasters that are out there, Israel this, Israel that's, making Israel to be, the country of angels. But really, that's where the demons are. You're seeing what's going on in Lebanon. You're seeing what happened in Gaza. And then you got the audacity of these Middle Eastern countries there and all the Arab League and all them that are surrounding there, supposed to be protecting their Muslim brothers and sisters. Then Jordan, right there, King of Jordan and all that. The biggest bunch of hypocrites. Then you got the United Nations playing the peace card. Oh, what they're doing is genocide and all that. Well, you've done nothing. You sit there and you get paid like a bunch of fat cats, the UN, they're useless. It's just to appease the masses and make them think that there's someone there or some entity there in the guise of peace. There's nothing peaceful about it. They're all involved. They're all getting paid. These diplomats are a bunch of shit talkers, just like these other leaders of the country, all these kings. King of Jordan, we know that he's a Freemason. We know that all these entities that were running Palestine, the Prime Minister of Palestine is basically a figurehead that did nothing. Yasser Arafat was also a nothing burger as well. He was in it. We know that he was involved in the basically with the Freemasons. Then you got all these other kings and sheiks and all the rest of them that are playing the game of, we don't like what's going on, but hey, we're getting paid. We're getting all this oil, we've got all this oil. We're making all this money. Dubai is basically the capital of debauchery. You know what I mean? All these influencers flock like there. They just all party hard and they have one law for them and one law for their citizens. The UAE is a cesspool of crap. Saudi Arabia, triple plus what that means. All corruption, child trafficking, human trafficking, filth like you wouldn't believe. In the guise of, oh no, we're strict with, we cut off hands, we cut off heads, we do this, we do that. If you do this, but no, if you're part of the club, you're immune to all that. That's just for our gullible masses to believe. And that's how it's been working. They haven't given a damn about what happened in Gaza. They can sit there on their high chairs and say whatever they want. Turkey sits there and complains all the time and does nothing. Qatar, forget about it. Qatar is for the tip. They're all useless. They've done nothing. They've allowed these atrocities. Have a look at what's going on in Lebanon. The Prime Minister's jumping up and down and saying all these things. Well, you've done nothing either. You're just a figurehead. That's all you are. You're just sitting there, getting fat, getting rich, okay, and pretending that you give a damn about Lebanon where you don't. None of you do. You're all puppets and you all know about it. So we're getting constantly gaslit by these entities that are playing this little game, and people think this is how stupid that people can be. But then the people are waking up to the game. That they're playing this game that, that they actually give a damn, but they're part of the club. They're just allowing it to happen. They've got all these millions, billions, trillions of dollars, whatever they got. They could bring the whoop ass down. They've got military, but they're just sitting there doing nothing. Saudi Arabia, impotent. Jordan, impotent. Have a look at the Middle East. There is more countries there than one little country called Israel. More countries that surround it. Egypt, all the rest of it. A huge chunk over there. And you got one little country there called Israel, and they all seem to be scared of it. Why? Why are they scared of Israel? Is it because of all the dirt and filth that Israel's got on them? Pretty much. Because that's how Israel works. That's how Zionists work. They've got them all over a barrel doing something. All of them are a bunch of hypocrites. They play this game of that they give a damn about their country, about their people. They're a bunch of degenerates, the whole lot of them. And Israel have got everything on them, just like Epstein Island. See, Israel are in the business of intelligence. Manipulation, deception is how they play. They believe that we are lower than them. Look, we are the Goyim. That we are cattle. That we are, shall we say, indispensable. Why do you think and this is the future proves past again. Why do you think they're sending the military from the United States? You don't see Israel going out there sending military over from the United States, from Israel to go in direct conflict with Iran, boots on the ground. No, they don't. It's America, and it's always been America. And it's always been not just only America, but the world. And the thing is, I'm going to say it straight, guys. Sorry, but it needs to be said. America is being used. And President Trump is exposing this. Because it's been going on for a very, very long time. Remember, President Trump is about exposure. People think that he's doing this. No, he's doing it to expose. Because never before, I don't remember people jumping up and down, the amount of people that are out there on their soapboxes against Israel, exposing Zionism on its multi-layers, all its multi-layers, and those that are connected. Never before have they felt so exposed. So think about this. President Trump is basically exposing Israel, exposing the Middle East for what they've been doing. Because it's been going on for a very long time. And it's time for it to come to an end. That's why saving Israel for last. Now, another bunch of users is the European Union. We know that the European Union were created, and President Trump said it, was created to go against America financially and decimate it. The pen is mightier than the sword, as they say. You had Obama from the inside, infiltration instead of invasion, stripping it down. The military. President Trump said, I had to rebuild it. Another, shall we say, in the guise of trying to help out America, but screwing over America's NATO. That's why President Trump called out NATO. That was a genius move. Because NATO is coming to an end. The EU was created to go against the United States financially. NATO was set up to weaken America as well financially, because think about this, not only financially, but also militarily. Now, NATO are made up by the majority of European countries. That's why President Trump keeps saying that there's a sea that separates us. We don't need to get involved over there. So NATO, what happens? NATO, who pays for the most chunk of NATO is the United States again. It's disgusting. Now, over there, you got all these military bases. What do you think they give it to to the United States for nothing? No, the United States pays for it. So no, how's this? I don't honestly. I've been thinking about this. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. So the United States pays for these bases over there to protect others' interests, to protect their interests, the EU and NATO's, to continue on with their course of world domination. And then also in the guise of, yes, no, you need to have presence over there. For what reason? So you can protect them, so they can continue on with their world domination? Is that why? And then you got Israel that uses, the United States as well. How does that work? How does any of that work? That's why President Trump wants out of NATO. Because he just made a point. Remember when he said, and that was prior to all this, that if we need NATO, they're not going to be there. And here we are. Exactly what he said. Here we are. And this is where it brings me to this little decode here, guys. You think President Trump does things by coincidence? No, by design. Let's have a look at this. NATO nations have absolutely done nothing to help with the lunatic nation. He's talking about Iran, but think about this. He's exposing NATO. And now militarily decimated of Iran. So he's saying that we don't need them anymore. We've done the job ourselves. The USA needs nothing from NATO. And never forget. So in other words, yes, never forget. A very important point in time. Oh, yes, it is. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you are witnessing the destruction of NATO. Have a look. It's time. Now, it goes. This is what is very important. When President Trump became president, the first term, he was known as the 45th president. Let's go to Q drop, and you know how mirrors work. 45, 45 by no coincidence. This is an amazing drop in the Q drops, guys, which further validates what President Trump is saying. And there are no coincidences, you know, that doesn't exist. Let's go to that Q drop. 45, 45. Humanity is good. But when we let our guard down, we allow darkness to infiltrate and destroy. Like past battles fought. World War I, World War II. They were funded by the Rothschilds. Both sides of the coin. Now, like past battles fought, we now face our greatest battle at present, the greatest, because this is a war that's been controlled by evil on both sides of the coin. This is real war. This is against evil, real evil. A battle to save our republic, our way of life, and we decide, each of us now will decide our future. So now this is the opportunity, guys, that we need to take in this liminal space to sort out our affairs and to prepare ourselves spiritually, mentally, with what's going on. We will be a nation under God. We will be a nation under God, or we will cede our freedoms, rights, and liberties to the enemy. We all have a choice to make. And this is where I highlighted this. Evil, darkness has never been so exposed to light. And this is my point. This is exactly what I've been saying, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Is that never before in history has evil been so exposed. Have a look at Israel, Zionism, the real face of evil, the real deep state. That's what I'm talking about here. It's all being exposed. NATO being exposed. The Middle East, Saudi Arabia being exposed. They can no longer hide in the shadows. Our system of government has been infiltrated by corrupt, sinister elements. Democracy was almost lost forever. Now think about Hillary Rodham Clinton. We know that she was going to take over Obama. Obama was brought in by Prince Al-Walid of Saudi Arabia. Triple plus. Would you say that President Trump's got a bone to pick with Saudi Arabia? Yes. Remember, that's where Hillary's little playground was, known as Hillary's, what do you call it? Alice in Wonderland. Yes, that's where it was all. And we know all these entities that were groomed by Saudi Arabia, and they infiltrated the United States. That's why JFK said infiltration instead of invasion. At least when you're invaded, you could see the enemy head on, and you can attack the enemy. But when you're infiltrated and in the guise of being a president, and then those in his administration bought and sold. Then you've got Israel that's playing the different angle, as always, through AIPAC and their lobbyists, controlling Congress. And this is not about left and right, ladies and gentlemen. This is about exposing the beast, right? Now, think about Hillary Rodham Clinton installed 2+ Supreme Court judges, 200+ judges, rogue elements, expand inside the DOJ, Department of Justice, corrupted. This is another future proves past. That's why all this corruption is being shown now. They've never been felt, none of these entities like the DOJ, FBI, CIA, NSA, the White House has never been exposed as much as it is being exposed now. Done by design. Removal of the Second Amendment border, done by design to weaken America from within. America for sale. China, Russia, Iran, Syria. ISIS, we know what ISIS is. Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. Al-Qaeda expansion. All done to weaken America, to bring down the beacon of light because of the Second Amendment, the world's biggest militia. Then it's got here, expansions, surveillance of domestic citizens. What do you think they wanted to do with these, those drones that you've gone by? Oh yeah, isn't that lovely? We're taking little videos and all that sort of crap. That's going up on, you're being surveillanced without you even knowing. When you go on Facebooks and that was all done by DARPA. Who's DARPA connected to? Israel again. Everything points in that direction to the Zionists. People don't realize that it's a blue and white sponge that absorbs everything. Who do you think created your Android phones? Who do you think created Apple? Have a hard think about that one. Oh, in the guise of conveniency. That's what it is. Everything's convenient. When people go around on holidays, they're always taking photos, putting it up on Facebook, Instagram, all these sort of, they don't realize that they're being socially profiled and they're being, shall we say, every move. Oh, I'm going to wear my Fitbit. Oh, yeah, that was an interesting one. That's another exposure about the Fitbit. People think, oh, I'm getting fitter. They're counting how many. Yeah, they're counting how many steps you're making. They know everything about you. They want to know your health, not for good reasons. It's about control in the guise of, helping, safety, social, all that kind of crap. And then, did you see recently, how funny was that? It was exposure with, think about this. You've got, a French ship, Navy ship. I think it was a French Navy ship. And one of these soldiers, whatever they are, Navy personnel, decided to go and do a bit of a run on the up and down on the Navy ship and exposed the whole Navy ship because he switched on his bloody Fitbit. How ridiculous is that? But this is what it's exposure upon exposure. But getting back to what I'm saying, this is to do with surveillance. Did you say also about Susie Wiles when she was wearing a Fitbit and at a high security briefing? How ridiculous is that? Is that done by design? Yes, it's exposure again. Now, modify, change voters' rules, regulations, allow illegal ballot harvesting with SCOTUS-backed liberal social opinion sell off to military, to the highest bidder, to fight internal long-standing wars. The thirst of a one world order. Now, who was part of that one world order? We know who they were. A one world ruling party. George H.W. Bush would go out there and say, the New World Order, look, it was nothing all the time. All of them would say it. Even here in Australia, they said it. They were sitting there saying it at their presses. It's about seeding mass consciousness and trying to get people used to that term because they had it installed for us, a one world order known as the New World Order or the Nazi World Order. It goes back to, remember, the Third Reich wanting to reign for 1,000 years. Yes. Now, people believe that Germany lost the war, the Nazis. No. We know what happened. But anyway, getting back to what I'm saying. So what they wanted to do was to use this one world order for the destruction of national sovereignty, to take away everyone's right, and in the guise of safety, as in, oh, please save us, come in New World Order and save us. That's what they're going to do. Now, serves to obtain control over America and her allies. Now think EU, European Union. Think about that. Hugh's telling us to think about the European Union because they were created to destroy the United States within financially. That's why they're bounded together, to be able to go against the strong economy or the dollar of the United States. By diluting your vote to oblivion, this is what happens. Think about what happened. The European Union is actually made up of European countries. Now, back in the day of, Nazis and, we know the Ashkenazis there were, they wanted to take over Europe, and they did with the sword. That's right, with the sword, meaning militarily. Then the next phase was, obviously, they took over Europe with the pen. The pen is mightier than the sword, meaning economically. That was done by design, and who were involved? The puppets. When I mean the puppets, the leaders. Yes, the leaders. The leaders at the time, the prime ministers, the presidents, the Congress, the parliaments, that were all involved, gave away their sovereignty, and then they what they did is they managed to get them into the euro. Oh, the euro is going to give you more power over your money, blah, blah. They sold it. They got everyone hot to the eyeballs with debt. They were going out there and they were giving every Tom, Dick and Harry out there loan upon loan upon loan, and everyone was living the high life. No one would go out. I remember, let's talk about Greece. I spoke to people in Greece when I went there, and they told me exactly how it went down. They would go out to the theatres, and they would be approached by the banking, shall we say, organisations there, as in the people that represent the banks, to go and buy to go and have a credit card upon a credit card, and they were giving them out like it was nobody's business. You would be harassed, ladies and gentlemen. When you went to the theatre, you would be harassed by these people that go there and they push credit cards, and they would give you credit cards on the spot. People were living the high life. Cars, they were having the best cars. The best of everything. Hocking themselves to that. And then it came crashing down. When it was time to pay, they paid all right. And then that was done by design. And away went all their sovereignty. You saw what happened with the economic collapse in all these European countries. That was done by design with the IMF and all the rest of the World Banks and everything else that were involved in destroying the European countries and taking away their sovereignty. And when you take away their sovereignty, that's a one world, shall we say, EU is basically being governed by a bunch of bureaucrats that have not been elected by the people. And this to me was like, okay, yep, done by design. We know the Q's telling us that it's been done by design to go up against the United States, but also it's the, shall we say, the test before the grand finale. So in other words, they did it on the EU, and if it worked on the EU, now we could try it on the rest of the world. We've got NATO. We're going to go and destroy America economically, and then that's what they wanted to do. Bring in the new one world ruling party. Okay, that's exactly what they wanted to do there. That's why they used Think EU. That's what Q tells us. The start of the concept began with organizations such as the World Health Organization. Then the World Trade Organization, so they were getting to it. This is how they started. ICC. And have a look at here, NATO. That's why President Trump is basically exposing NATO for what they are. All meant, can you see that in in the capital brackets? What does it say there, ladies and gentlemen? All meant to weaken the United States. That's what it was designed to do. And then also the formation of the EU through the threat, or the con, because it was a con. And we know that the EU will also involve in enriching themselves and using Iran to do it. It had nothing to do with enriching uranium. It was enriching their pockets. Of close proximity attack on one is an attack on all. The sales pitch. That is Article 5, NATO. When you attack one country, you attack them all. Article 5, the sales pitch. And that is the sales pitch for the general public. And it's, obviously, oh yes, no, it's all for one and one for all, and it's a fear control. They use it as a way of controlling humanity. Now it says here, EU did each member nation cede sovereignty to Brussels. Yes, it did. Each nation, because they installed their puppets there, their leaders. Greece had them, Italy had them, all them had them. Spain. And they ceded all their sovereignty. In other words, what you think about this. Consider the European Union a project. If it worked in Europe, guess what? They're going to use it on the rest of the world, and they're going to use it on the United States. So they used, obviously, Europe as a testing ground. So then you think about this. EU did members nations cede sovereignty to Brussels? Yes, they did. EU, each member must implement EU rules and regulations. And what has it done? Number one, migration. They've got no control. Each country has no control over their migration. And you have a look at what happened over there in Europe. Being flooded. That's why President Trump exposes it. He exposes what's going on in Europe. And he doesn't want it happening in the United States. Then the currency. They created the EU, the euro. They lost their sovereignty. Overall control. They have no say. So people say to themselves, well, hold on a minute. What's the point of having a parliament so they can get rich? What's the point of them having, politicians? Politicians are useless. They really are. They just sit there in a bunch of hot air, shit-talking clowns. All they do is they tell us to buckle down, tighten our belt. Well, they're sitting there eating lobster and drinking champagne. That's what they're all about. Their thirst to remove your ability to defend yourself serves as to prevent the uprising to challenge their control. So you think about this. They wanted to take away your guns, like they did here in Australia. like they've done all over the place. Like I said, they're using they used Australia as a testing ground and it worked. They used fear and that little operation that took place in Port Arthur, and they blamed a retarded boy that they said that he did so many sniper shots and all that sort of thing. That's a bunch of crap. We know that was a joint CIA Mossad operation, and there is a suppression order on that, and the police have the reports, what really went down, but they've been suppressed. I think it's about time the truth does come out. But anyway, besides the point, anyone that will think about this, their thirst to remove your ability to defend yourself serves to prevent an uprising to challenge their control. In other words, they want to take away your rights to bear arms so you can't challenge them. There is a fundamental reason why our enemies dare not attack the United States or invade our borders. It's called armed citizenry. In other words, the United States, if America falls, that's what it says, if America falls, so does the rest of the world. So does the world. Because Second Amendment, you have the right to challenge them and uprise against a tyrannical government. And all they've been doing, these school shootings and stuff like that, we know this has all come out now through the MK Ultra program. You've been seeing it in the mainstream media, done by design. That they've been utilizing manipulative tactics to be able to create a shooter. They use, remember, the CIA have access to psychologists. These psychologists go around in the guise of trying to help these people, but realistically speaking, they're grooming them. This thing about the trans shooters, this is exposure. And this is all coming out, that these entities that are out there, these psychologists, are there socially profiling or psychologically profiling people that supposedly be under their care as being potential shooters. And then they use certain tactics, manipulative tactics, to be able to get them to do it. These school shootings are done deliberately to target people, to hit them right where it hurts, in the heart. So then people can give away their guns. You've seen there are people that they're silly. And it's because of the fact that they're like, oh, we don't want this to continue on. We better give away our rights. That is exactly what they've been doing deliberately every bloody time in the United States. If America falls, darkness will soon follow. Once we stand together, we all are together in this fight from all parts of the world. This movement was created by President Trump for a reason. Exposure. He'd been going out there and exposing fake news. But we're all together in this fight, guys. This is a fight of good versus evil. Now, only when we stand together, only when we are united, instead of looking at left and right and black and white and blah, blah, blah. That's exactly what they want us to do. That's exactly how they programmed us to, while we're fighting amongst each other, while we're punching on, while we're arguing against left and right, when we fought, arguing against religions, separating people, we're always too busy pigeonholing people, working to find out ways how to get offended, working out ways on how to find shall we say, how to be divided, rather than focusing on the common enemy, that dark enemy. like it says here. Only when we stand together, only when we are united, can we defeat this highly entrenched dark enemy. Their power and control relies heavily on an uneducated population. Think about that one. Uneducated. In other words, keep them dumb, keep them stupid, and keep them separated and divided, and keep them fighting amongst each other, left and right and left, so forth and so forth. A population that trusts without individual thought. Yes, the mainstream media, that's where they get their daily dose of facts. They don't realize they're being manipulated, and they have been. And they've been trusting, shall we say, the mainstream media and their lies for way too long. They've been trusting their governments. They've been trusting their churches and their religion. They've been trusting their education system. And they've been lied to. They've been programmed. And have a look at this. This is where we are right now. They think they've been educated. No, education is knowledge. Real knowledge. And we know that knowledge is power. Now, then they are saying, we've got all these degrees and stuff here, degrees of stupidity, degrees of, shall we say, indoctrination. Not degrees of asking what is what, questioning things, thinking outside the proverbial square they live in. Just because they've got all these certificates on the wall, does that make them educated or more indoctrinated? When you say degrees, it sounds like degrees of Freemasonry. Everything's got degrees, hasn't it? But anyway, a population that trusts without individual thought. Have a look what happened with COVID. They were manipulated and lied and deceived by the mainstream media, by the governments, by the religions, because I remember, the church is opening their hall, go and get jabbed. After all, have a look. These religions had, like the Catholic Church, like the Anglican Church, like all these different churches, religions, had investments in Big Pharma. A population that obeys without challenge, a population that remains outside of free thought, and instead remains isolated, living in fear inside of a closed loop echo chamber known as the mainstream media, social media, the government lies and deceptions of the controlled mainstream media. There we go. It's right there. This is not about politics. This is about preserving our way of life and protecting the generations that follow. Guys, this is about our children. This is about the children, their future, but also our future as well. The only way we're going to get through this is to expose the filth. And President Trump is doing his bit. We've got to do ours. We are living, look at this right there. In biblical times, we literally are. Have a look around you. It's all happening over there with the Bible, where the Bible lands are, right there, over there. Occupied Palestine, over there. Middle East, over there, all biblical lands. We are living in biblical times. Have a look around you. What Q is saying is future proves past. And this is all to protect the generations to follow. Children of light, which we are all children of light, versus the children of darkness. United against this invisible enemy of all humanity. Can you see how relevant, and I've got the God bumps right now thinking about this, that President Trump, just by posting this out on Truth Social, it all makes the world of sense. This is the end for NATO. This is what President Trump's saying. They've done absolutely nothing. It's true. They've done absolutely nothing. They're useless. President Trump is about exposure, and that's what he's doing. Never forget. Very important point in time. We are living in a very important point in time right now as we speak. So Q drop 45-45 mirrors President Trump, 45-45, 45th president, is very relevant to what he posted on Truth Social. And you can see that. This is a war we're in, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not kid ourselves. We're at war. Q drop 521. Not everything is going to be clean, because it isn't. It isn't clean. What you're seeing right now has been going on for a very long time. But like I said, this is their last chance. Evil last chance. This is what Q talks about. Moves and counter moves. Is there real evil out there? Yes, there is. Evil is trying to latch on and hold on as much as it can. However, there are this tug of war, light and dark, good and evil. That's happening right now. Now have a look what's going on in Lebanon. They're going out there and they're announcing, Israeli Defense Minister Israel's Katz announced to accelerate destruction of bridges. So they're destroying all these bridges and homes in southern Lebanon. Used the Israeli military record of atrocity, crimes in Gaza to threaten people everywhere. The Israeli military has already extensively destroyed and devastated civilian life in southern Lebanon. The world must not stand for this. We cannot stand for this anymore. As Israeli leaders shamelessly threaten further destruction and displacement, Israel must not be allowed to violate international law, which they've been doing over and over and over again, without impunity. So with impunity across the region. So they've been getting, doing this without any interference whatsoever. While we've been focusing on all these other things, we have not been seeing what's going on in Lebanon. This has all been part of their little scheme. Keep people distracted. Distract them with their assets, their mainstream media, their social media influencers. They've been doing this deliberately by design. And what they've been doing is, while we've been looking over in this direction, they've been doing other things and annexing land in Lebanon. Let's have a look at this video right here, because you know what? It's about time that people knew the truth and expose Israel for what it is. It is a parasite. That's what it is. Not the people, but the ideology and what's going on.
ובנוסף לכך, להאיץ את הרס הבתים הלבנונים בכפרי המגע כדי לסכל איומים על היישובים הישראלים בהתאם למודל בית חנון ורפיח בעזה.
So they're going around destroying churches, guys. Look at this. Mosques, churches, everything. Look at this. Goodbye. Without anyone interfering. I don't see Jordan interfering, King of Jordan. I don't see Turkey interfering. I don't see Syria, number one, Syria, that guy there. Mr. Leader of the Al-Qaeda back in the day. Had a huge bounty on his head by the United States. He's just sitting there doing nothing. Because he's a bought, sell-out bench warmer there, obviously, for Israel. Let's continue on. is this allowed to continue? That's my question. They're actually going out there and decimating churches, killing civilians, blowing up bridges. Then you got Mr. Lebanon's deputy prime minister saying that he has real fears. Think about this. That Lebanon is turning into another Gaza, but he's sitting on his little high chair there. He's eating his lobsters and his champagne, and he's not getting bothered by anybody. He's sitting there talking to Sky News, the Zionists. How's that? How does that work? He's a sellout as well. So the thing is, your country, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, Tarek, you're going and speaking to Sky News, which we know is owned by Rupert Murdoch. And we know that Rupert Murdoch is a Zionist. That's a fact. He's gone out there. You can't dispute it. And then he's playing the game. Oh, he has real fears of Lebanon being turned into another Gaza. Really, all hot air, nothing but lies. Playing the game like, oh, you know, I've got to say these things just to appease the people. No, that's what I'm saying. These politicians all need to go.
You know, what is most worrisome is that there are ministers in the Israeli cabinet who've said this. Smotrich, Minister of Finance, it said we will turn South Lebanon into Khan Yunis, which is the southern part of Gaza. He said it loud and clear. Minister of Defense said that, I can't quote him verbatim now, but he said something similar. So we have real fears that this is the case.
Our colleague Alex Crawford is in the south of the country, and she's doing an investigation on the number of health workers, emergency workers who have been killed, up to 40 so far. Do you believe they're being deliberately targeted? And do you believe that Israel is committing war crimes?
We're documenting every violation of international humanitarian law.
Why don't you just say yes? Because you are part of it. You're getting there and you're getting nice, fat and rich like the others are, playing that little game of yours like you give a damn. This happens to be the Deputy Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen. Have a look at this. Tariq Mitri says about having real fears that Lebanon is turning into another Gaza. What a joke. You know, it's an insult to our intelligence. That's what it is. Israel is continuing to target and destroy key bridges in Lebanon. They're going after civilian targets. So why isn't anything being done about it? And why doesn't the Deputy Prime Minister send his military to do something? Because they don't have one. They've all bought and sold. They're all being placed there. Who do you think's placed them there? The Zionists. All there for a reason. To do nothing. And they, like the Palestinian, remember that Palestinian Prime Minister, the one that would sit there and, oh, the atrocities in Gaza and all that crap. Where is he now? They're all playing this little game of theirs. We ain't buying it. Now, you think about it, they're targeting all these bridges in Lebanon so they can isolate large parts of the country and attempt to hold it themselves, Israel. It's called Command and Conquer. Remember that old game there, Command and Conquer? That's exactly what they're doing. They're commanding it. No one's bothering to do anything about it. Let them be. And they're conquering ground. It's disgusting. It really is a sorry state of affairs that we're in. And the press, the ones that are controlled, are the only ones allowed to report what's going on there. That's what they're controlled, and they come up with the narratives that they go into Lebanon, and they're doing it for good, for the sake of the people there in Lebanon. They're doing it for them, so they can go and protect them against Hezbollah. They use them as a scapegoat, just to go there and destroy people, throw white phosphorus around, kill people, bomb the shit out of all the buildings there. Because this is what's happening, guys. This is all real. This is in the city of Tyre in southern Lebanon. And there's massive Israeli airstrikes, and no one's doing a damn thing. Anyway, let's watch this. Yeah, isn't that lovely? I'm sure they're sitting there, the Israelis laughing it up, like they always do. And it's disgusting. It really is. There's a massive explosions are taking place all around southern Lebanon. They're decimating towns in the name of Hezbollah, their little scapegoat. The Israeli Defense Force is obliterating entire neighborhoods, guys. Entire neighborhoods. Let's have a look at this. Look at that. Unchallenged. And this is what I'm saying. People are looking at all other places. They're being distracted. I'm showing you what's going on. And Israel have blown up the neighborhood mosque in Lebanon. Oh, yes, no, it's time for that to go as well. They've been blowing up everything. But the moment that a synagogue blows up, they blow it up themselves anyway. You know that. They blow up their own synagogues so they can play the victim. They stage their own false flag so they can play the victim. And they use the Holocaust card as well. Now, this is over in Lebanon. Israel blows up neighborhood mosque in Lebanon. I know, because in the name of Hezbollah, we're going to go blow that up as well. There we go. What they say, another one bites the dust. Well, there you go. And Israeli soldiers, the moment that they've been taking over, shall we say, Gaza or Lebanon, parts of that, they go around the place and then they burn it. They burn it to the ground. Have a look at this. This is the Israeli Defense Force, and they're going around burning places down with fuel. Have a look at this.
תמשיך לנו קו, פס, 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 פס. תראו את המחנה שלנו. פס, פס, פס. פה. תראי פה איזה נגיעה לגז. פה, 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 פה. קרב על הגז. וחבר את זה החלק שלנו פה. הנה, דקה מסיימים. יאללה, יצאנו.
Now, how would you like... Think about this. We sit there, and it's because we live in other countries and all that. It's not happening to us. How would you like if you were, say, living in Lebanon? Say things were switched around. How would you appreciate your neighborhood being blown to bits? Think about this for a moment. You got to put yourself in their shoes. How would you appreciate if that happened to you? If they could go in there, in your place, your house, willy-nilly, that you built up, over years, you bought the land. It's your house, it's your property. They kick you out. That's Lebanon, guys. That's over there. Blow up the place, and then they burn it down. How would that make you feel? How about putting ourselves in their shoes? Because this has been going on for a very long time. But now, they've got the, shall we say, greater Israel on their mind. We know that's the case. They want the greater Israel. Never before have they thirsted for it. The destruction is running wild over there, guys. It really is. And you could see that there are politicians in Lebanon that don't care. The deputy prime minister's playing the woe is me. It's going to be like Gaza. But he's not getting, shall we say, any poorer. He doesn't look like he's lost any sleep, does he? No, he doesn't. In fact, also in the Knesset, which is their parliament in Israel, they're putting out the death penalty. Did you know that? No, it's not for this, not for the Zionists. It's for the Palestinians. Problem solution. The old playbook from the Nazis, Ashken Nazis. Left and right, same playbook. Well, guess what's happening right now? They've introduced the death penalty bill in the Israeli parliament, and it's all unopposed. And it's not for the civilians. No. It's for the Palestinians. Because they want to wipe them all out, and they will find ways of doing it. And they'll say, no, he's done this and he's done that, and they want to be able to hang people. Now, let's have a read of this. Executions would be carried out by hanging by the Israeli prison service within 90 days of sentencing. Doesn't it remind you of the Holocaust, the final solution? How they've gone around, see what happened in Gaza. It's exactly what they did, the ghettos. Control that area. Now they're going into West Bank, Judea and Samaria, trying to take and annex all their land, and they're doing it using Israeli settlers that Mr. Jared Kushner and the gang have paid for. And now they're doing this. Now they want to hang, and people saying, oh, Israeli prison services with 90-day sentence. Yeah, pretty quick, isn't it? It's exactly what they want. The final solution. Bill calling for death penalty for terrorists. Who's the terrorists? Who do they label to be the terrorists? The Palestinians, guys, the Palestinians. Have a look, they're out there. Have a look. Approved for the final Knesset vote. They've got it all lined up. And then you've got the European Union playing the game. Oh, the approval of the death penalty bill by Israeli parliament would be a grave step backwards. The EU opposes capital punishment in all cases. They've got to play the little game there and call all circumstances. We encourage Israel to abide by its previous principal positions. Yes. We encourage. What's encouragement? We condone, we encourage. It's just words. That's all it is. It's literally exposure upon exposure upon exposure. Now, if that's not enough, did you know, like my parents are from Greece, and now they're buying, the Zionists are buying, and they've been encouraged by the Israeli Defense Minister of Israel to purchase islands in Greece for the good of the Jewish people. So what they're doing now is expansion. We know that the Prime Minister of Greece is a sellout Zionist, and all of them prior to him have been. And now they're being encouraged to purchase islands in Greece. Avery Steiner, a board member of the Jewish National Fund, proposed that purchasing Greek islands as an emergency safe haven. So in other words, when Iran goes around and bombs the shit out of them, they've got a place to go and sunny side up. You know what I mean? Over in sunny side Greece, their safe haven. So it beats you sitting in and riding in a Israeli bomb shelter. So in other words, when the shit hits the fan, you can all go. That's all they're good at doing is fleeing, right? Like a bunch of fleas. That's where the word flee comes from. Okay? They all flee and get out and go to other places. What about fighting for your country? No, the Zionists don't fight for the country. They have others to do that. The United States and the Western world. And Israel go in there and they're the ones that go around and cause all the problems. They go around, and I'm not talking about the people. We're talking about the politicians, the Zionists and all them, the ideology. They go around stirring the hornet's nest. Think about this. Let's look at it from this perspective. You got a hornet's nest. They go there with a stick and start smashing it around the place. Then they call somebody else to go and take care of it. They get bitten and, attacked. Let's call them the United States. And then one little hornet hits them, and then it becomes the victim. Do you see how it works? And this is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. This has all been done by design. Now, the Prime Minister of Greece is a sellout Zionist. They all are Zionists. They're going to go there, and it'll be like a new, shall we say, expansion of Israel. And people are saying, if you allow that, what's going to happen? Soon, the Greeks will lose their heritage and it will become part of the greater Israel. The thing is also, remember, not only are the, shall we say, the politicians, the prime minister is a Zionist in Greece, but they're also the ones that run the show in the religion. Up the very top, they say the fish, you can't smell, it doesn't stink from the tail, it stinks from the head. That's where the stink starts from. In other words, the ones up the top are also Zionists of the religion. Who do you think owns the majority of the land in Old Jerusalem? It's the Greeks. Not the Greek, but the Greek Orthodox. They own it. Do you think they're all in bed with each other? Pretty much. And like I said, they don't trust each other. So all these things that's going on, have a look at this, Dimona residents, right? So, Dimona has got to do, why did they attack there? It was a message. It was a message to them. Next is going to be your nuclear power plant. Now, Dimona residents breaks the internet in Israel. After the Iranian missile destroys his home, he shows up armed. Why? Why does he show? No, there's no more There's no Palestinians there. There's no terrorists. Oh, yes, there are terrorists. There are people that are there to steal his shit. So in other words, he rocks up with a rifle because he doesn't trust his neighbors. He doesn't trust any of the Zionists there as well. Yes, Israeli resilience, more like, Israeli don't trust anybody there. They don't trust each other. No, they don't have each other's backs. Now, another thing that's what I want to say is this. It's disgusting. The Israeli torture tactics. Let me show you something. It's a real heartbreaker. Israeli forces They tortured an 18-month-old Palestinian toddler to coerce his father into making a confession during an interrogation. So in other words, in order to get information from the father, they use cigarettes and they burn the child, guys. They torture the child. Have a look at this. Have a look at what they did to the child, guys. This is what these Israeli Defense Force, they got demons in them. That's the child, guys, right there. Have a look at the cigarette burns. In order to get the father to confess, they did this.
لما رحت على مستشفى الأقصى حكوا لي إنه اللي في رجلين ابنك قطر تعذيب، مدخل ومخرج بآلة حديدية وجمعة سيجارة مطفيني في رجله ورا كمان آلة حديدية باقيين ينقذوا الطفل. أنا جوزي قبل الحدث تقريبا بأسبوعين كان بيعاني من اضطرابات نفسية، لحد يوم الحدث قال جوزي لحماتي بده ياخذ ابني ويشتري له حاجات من الدكان، فأخده. يعني هي الدكان كثير قريبة كمان من الحدود عنا، والحدود قريبين يعني بمسافة يعني 500 متر تقريبا. أخذ ابني بدل ما يروح يشتري له حاجات يبدو إنه عقله لف وراح عند الحدود. فلما قرب عند المنطقة الصفراء صار يعني الطخ كتير. هو الجيران اللي شافوه قالوا إنه جوزي كان حاطط ابني على كتافه. لما وصل غاد وقرب يعني من الخط الأصفر، الجيش الإسرائيلي بعث الكوادكوبتر وحكوا له إنه ينزل الطفل على كتافه، فنزلوا جوزي وقالوا له كشف على بطنه، فكشف وحط الطفل وقدم هو عندهم. قدم عندهم أنزلوا 4 جنود أخذوا جوزي، وجندي واحد أخذ ابني. هذا حسب يعني الجيران اللي شافوا من العماير العالية. هذا الشهد اللي صار يعني إنه شافوه. هذا الحدث صار على الساعة 10 الصبح لحد الساعة 8 المساء. أنا ما بعرفش أي شيء شو صار مع ابني أو مع جوزي. لحد الساعة 8:30 اتصل علينا الصليب وحكى لنا إنه هي إن نروح ناخذ ابني من سوق المغازي. رحت أنا وعمي وأبويا عشان ناخذ ابني. أجت سيارات الصليب واخذت. انا لما اعطتني اياه كان ابني بلفلف بورق سلوفان. لما بقولها مال ابني يعني في اشي، بتقول لي لا بس هو تعبان شويه. اخذت ابني وروحت لعند. لما انا وصلت على الدار حسيت الولد موجوع. انا لما اخذته منها كان وجهه.
That's real footage, guys. Look at this. Have a hard look at that.
عندما انا وصلت على الدار حسيت الولد موجوع. انا لما اخذته منها كان وجهه اصفر وتعبان، مبين عليه تعبان. لما اخذته اجيت يعني بدي اقرب عليه، الولد مش بتحمل حد يمسكه. لما كشفت على رجليه لقيت الولد معذب برجليه. لما رحت على مستشفى الأقصى حكوا لي إنه اللي في رجلين ابنك قطر تعذيب، مش إنه يعني طلق أو إنه شظية في رجليه، لا هذا ابني معذب. مدخل ومخرج بآلة حديدية وجمعة سيجارة مطفيني في رجله ورا كمان آلة حديدية باقيين ينقذوا في الطفل. في الوقت اللي ابني كان يعني موجود عند الجيش الإسرائيلي هو جوزي، أنا ما كنتش بعرف إيش مصير ابني ولا كنت بعرف شو مصير جوزي. الحدث كان 19/3 ليلة العيد، وأخذته أنا على المستشفى ب20/3 أول يوم بالعيد.
I think it was your child. Have a look at that. This is demons. They got to be demons. I'm sick to my stomach, to be quite honest, watching it myself. How can this be allowed to happen? Have a look at this. Have a look at this, guys. The idea of police beating up a Palestinian father and his children for standing too close to a Jewish area. They're supposed to learn from this Holocaust that happened to them. Because they're the same ones that did it. I'm not saying the people, there are people that went through it, but these Ashkenazis, Nazis, that's where they all come from. They're doing exactly, because it all comes from the same playbook. The future proofs past again. And this is what real apartheid looks like, guys. He told the child to run. Look at this. And then we got Netanyahu's wife that's going around saying my children have suffered shaming and violence simply because they are the children of the prime ministers. The prime minister, we must condemn personal attack on children in any setting. In any setting, right? So this is Netanyahu's wife, Satan Yahu's wife. My children have suffered shaming and violence. What about that violence? Simply because they are the children of the prime minister. We must condemn personal attacks on children in any setting. Well, why did you condemn what your
My children have suffered shaming and violence simply because they are the children of the Prime Minister. We must condemn personal attacks on children in any setting, whether in person or online. I see this.
Thank you so much, madam.
You know, this is sickening. The amount of hypocrisy is through the roof. It really is. And when you see children that are being tortured, this is the torture tactics they're using. When they're using cigarette burns to slowly burn through the flesh on an 18-month-old toddler just to get the father to confess to something. It's disgusting, guys. It really is. Let's have a listen to this.
Torture is the hallmark of this genocide. Israeli soldiers have beaten, humiliated, filmed while stripped naked and sodomized Palestinian detainees, men, women, children. They've broken both bones, skulls, teeth. They've raped with metal objects, with knives, with dogs, defenseless humans. International law is unambiguous. Torture and genocide are absolutely prohibited. Standing for Palestine today means standing for justice and standing for what remains of the United Nations system as it's been dismantled from the ground. The critical findings of this report are two. One is that Israel has used torture as an instrument to subjugate and destroy the Palestinians as such, because no one can return to his or her life after enduring what Palestinians have endured over the past 900 days in Israeli dungeon. The second, that Israel has imposed a torturous environment on all Palestinians, those behind bars and those outside bars, starvation, some demolitions, mass killing, and all the other crimes that Palestinians have endured constitute an extreme form of physical and mental suffering endured by the people as such. This is genocide.
It is genocide. And the other thing is, what she said is the Palestinians in Israeli dungeons, prisons, behind bars. Now, what did we talk about before? They want to, and they're going to bring it in, the death penalty on terrorists. It's so easy for them to do. Who's going to save them? Who's going to say anything, to save these Palestinians? they're a terrorist, they consider anyone that's Palestinian a terrorist. So what hope do they have, especially when they're in Israeli prisons? They're going to be doing mass executions. And then they turn around and it's like this. Iran, about the hanging in Iran. President Trump is about exposure. He's saying about Iran doing mass hangings, Iran doing this, Iran doing that. But realistically speaking, he's been exposing Israel. Because never before, think about it, has Israel been so exposed. Now, what she's saying here, there's Palestinians behind bars, and guess what? You think it's a coincidence that they're going to implement their death penalty? Do you see what their little final solution is? You think they learned from, because remember, these Zionists are the ones that did the Holocaust. And what people got to get is this. Zionism is a political ideology. It's not a religion. It's been around for not that long. And it's a way of sucking in everything that is, so we say, to do with Judaism and all that. It's about painting them with the same brush. Now, people are ropeable and angry. You should see what they're saying out there. And is it being done by design to show people as far as, because this has been going on for a very long time. People think that it's just been happening now. They've been doing this in stages. Ever since they formed Israel, they've been doing it under the very noses of humanity, but under the black cloth, behind the black curtain, with the blessings of the leaders of the world. And they've been playing this little game. Even Yasser Arafat played it. But now it's been exposed. The black curtain has been pulled down and they've been exposed. Never before. Think about this. Now, the Congress people have been exposed. Those that are, shall we say, Team AIPAC. Now, who's the one that's exposing them? Oh, yes, and then President Trump says the word great. Everyone sees, oh, great, great, great. Yeah. What is he talking about? Why does he keep saying that word great? Especially with these entities, there's nothing great about them. The ones that he's been pushing out there, okay, in the sense of, oh, no, I endorse this person, I endorse that person. No, he's exposing them. He's exposing them deliberately by design. When he goes out on Truth Social, he says, I endorse, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. He's not endorsing him for, should we say, he's saying, yeah, for them being good. No, he's exposing them. And I'll show you why. Let's start off with this. Let me bring this one over here, guys. Just give me a quick sec. So he went out on Truth Social and was saying about this guy. Darren Lahoud wins. Right, okay. Let's go to the next candidate. What do they have in common? Mary Miller wins. Endorsed by President Trump. Mike Bost wins. What about, let's see what kind of entities that he's exposing here. So Mike Bost wins, and Mike Bost is also part of AIPAC. That's why he won. So he's showing you why they won in the first place. Because of AIPAC. Mike Bost got paid by AIPAC, pro-Israel lobby, $425,247. That's why they were able to win. Mary Miller got paid $32,030. Darren Lahoud, $420,511. Do you see the common denominator? And this is why people got to get. Why doesn't he just say Israel? Yeah, I get it. But what does Q says? There's a reason and a rhyme why we follow the Q drops, because Q gives us the answer. There's a reason why President Trump hasn't done it yet, because we know what Israel is meant for. We must remind ourselves that we're at war and things are necessary. It's not going to be clean. Q drop 521. What did you think it mean? Everything's going to be rosy and rainbows and President Trump on his white horse. No. We are saving Israel for last. Very specific. There we go. Very specific reason, not mentioned a single time. Very interesting drop, that one. We need to save Israel for last because a lot of things are connected to it. Remember, Q says it's going to be biblical. Well, it's all over there, isn't it? I know there's a lot of people that are frustrated. I know there's a lot of people that are angry. I get it. But what do we do? Not everything's going to be clean, guys. We know that. Q drop 521 clearly said it. Not everything will be clean. Scare necessary event. Well, I've always said World War III. Not everything will be clean. What did you expect? We're at war. We are fighting for good against evil. But know this, that do you trust the US military? Trust the chain of command? We are in control. Have faith. I've always said, ladies and gentlemen, that towards the end, it's going to get hard for everybody. It's going to test everyone's mettle and wit. And it is. But know this, President Trump has got to do what he has to do. He must. We need to obviously trust and realize that there's a much bigger thing going on. Think about this. And I say to people, you must remind yourselves. President Trump exposed fake news. See, there are people out there jumping up and down on their TikToks, saying all these nasty things about President Trump. And they're getting monetized. That's the thing. They're getting money. They're getting monetized. And yet they're standing on their proverbial soapboxes bagging President Trump. Right, okay. But if it wasn't for President Trump, you wouldn't have a soapbox to jump on. If it wasn't for President Trump, you wouldn't have a TikTok, would you? Let's be honest. Who was the one that saved TikTok? He was. When supposedly Biden wanted to get rid of it, who was the one that's giving you the opportunity to have a platform and get cashed up at the same time? Think about that one next time you jump on TikTok and you say all these nasty things about President Trump. Because you know what? There's a campaign out there. Oh, yes, there is. There's a campaign that it's consisting of the ones that spread disinformation, deliberately done by design, dirtying the waters like Laura Loomer, Alex Jones, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and all the others. Then you've got those that are gullible, that believe whatever they say and they spread it. That's called disinformation. So they spread their disinformation, done by design, because people got to realize there's a campaign that's going on, there's a thing going on that is done to take down President Trump. And there are social media influencers with a lot of power, because apparently people follow their garbage, and they believe everything they say. Then they believe the mainstream media saying all the nasty things about President Trump. And they're the Zionists too. They're controlled by the Zionists. The Zionists are playing the strings on both sides of the equation, the left and the right and the left. That's proven through AIPAC and all the other lobbyists, Israeli lobbyists. That's how they work. It's about keeping people divided, keeping people separated, keeping people under control by manipulation. People got to get it. President Trump is there to bring down this whole system of corruption. NATO exposed. We know what NATO was created for, and we know that this has all been proven right now with this thing with Iran, done by design to expose that NATO would not be there when the shit hits the proverbial fan. When President Trump said it back and everyone was saying, oh, no, they would. No, they're not. Have a look at them. They're all bailing ship and getting out of there, out of Iraq now. Out they go. President Trump was right again. He's been proving it over and over and over again. Now, he's doing things deliberately to awaken the mass consciousness. And I say, like he says, that he's going to take all the slings and arrows as a scapegoat. That's what they call him, the goat. The scapegoat can take it all. And that's what's happening. He's taking it all. Now, there are those entities that were for President Trump. They were riding the Trump gravy train. They all love Trump. And now they're all going against him. No, because it's not popular to be somebody that sticks up for President Trump like me. It's not popular at all. In fact, it's very unpopular. Even though you can back it with the facts, evidence, and receipts, like I always do, this is the road least traveled, ladies and gentlemen, right here. Because you know what? People are like these influencers. They go where the money is. And where the money is what's popular. What is the flavor of the month? And that's been proven by President Trump. And you know what President Trump's all about? He's about loyalty. And people are showing their loyalties. Now, this thing with General Flynn, you would have seen that he got $1.25 million settlement over the Russia collusion business. Now, those that have watched The Crack, and I've done a 2-part series on General Flynn called Retribution. We know that General Flynn did what he had to do. It was done by design in order to expose the corruption of the DOJ on all levels. So therefore, as Q talks about it, he took rubber bullets. In other words, it was all done by design. Now, people are saying that, okay, he reached a $1.25 million settlement. But however, the ones that colluded, the ones that did the crime, like Hillary, like Comey, well, no, Mueller's bit the big one. Well, you know, hey. Then you got all these others, like Obama, that are still supposedly walking around the place, and there hasn't been any justice at all. So, in other words, people are angry and upset. They're saying that he walks away with $1.25 million that's paid by the taxpayer, because the DOJ are the ones that are being sued, apparently. Who's running the DOJ? Isn't it Pamela Bondi? Let's talk about this one. Very important. Retired General Mike Flynn on Wednesday settled his lawsuit accusing the federal government is an entity. The federal government is a corporation. That's why we've spoken about this. You can sue a corporation. But realistically speaking, who's the one that's paying the 1.25? It's the people. Realistically speaking, he's suing the government, the federal government are paying for it, the DOJ. But those entities like Hillary, the ones that colluded, are still walking around the place. So retired General Mike Flynn on Wednesday settled his lawsuit accusing the federal government of malicious prosecution during the non-discredited Russia collusion case and will receive $1.25 million in compensation. Flynn, who was forced to resign as President Donald Trump's first national security advisor after a stellar career as a 3-star general overseeing the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA. Okay, and he felt vindicated by settlement after enduring what he called the Russian hoax FBI lawfare against me. Nothing can fully compensate for the hell that my family and I've endured over these many years, the relentless attacks, the destruction of reputation, the financial ruin, and the profound personal toll inflicted upon us all. No amount of money or formal resolution can erase the pain caused by prosecution that should never have been brought. And it just continues on. It says Flynn thanked Trump's DOJ. Flynn sued DOJ, Department of Justice, part of the corporation. So Flynn sued the DOJ for $50 million in 2023 for malicious politicized persecution by Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller, who's no longer with us, obviously, or Mueller. Yes, this settlement goes far in demonstrating. So, in other words, why didn't he get the 50 mil? Let's talk about it. This is done by design to set precedents. When you do something like this, it sets a precedent for a case to come in the future. So, in other words, this has opened up the floodgates to expose further of those corruption, the ones that are corrupted, the ones that did the Russia collusion. Can you see the genius of how this is all working? So General Flynn went for 50 mil. Instead, he walked away with 1.25 mil. That was all done by design. It's done to set a precedent in court. So therefore, they're going to go after, at a later stage, Hillary, Obama, Comey, and all the rest of them that colluded. Can you see how this works? The genius. We must look at that and get that there are bigger things at play. We know that General Flynn went and took all the bullets, even though they were rubber bullets, so to speak, the slings and arrows as well, when he went through this whole process of exposing the DOJ, ridiculed, and not only was he ridiculed by the DOJ and all them, but by the people, and by also these, and they should be ashamed of themselves, these truthers out there. They were going out there and now they're just, see, he's a grifter. They're going out there saying all these things about him. Oh, yes. And let me tell you something else. There's also someone else that's saying nasty things about him. That happens to be Kash Patel's main squeeze. Okay? The one, his little girlfriend out there, the one that's a Mossad asset, going around there and dirtying the waters like the others. Alexia. She'd been going out there and dirtying the waters. And like I exposed on the Kraken, Retribution, part 1 and 2, that there is a multi-network of infiltrators that work from left to right. And I've been right all along, ladies and gentlemen. I've been correct. I exposed Alexia and who she's connected to before any other ones did. I exposed the multi-network channel of infiltrators out there who work from left to right and right to left, and they're all supporting Alexia, Kash Patel's main squeeze, a known Mossad asset. And she's been saying all these nasty things about General Flynn out there. And obviously those multi-channel network of infiltrators are all giving her the support she needs. This is exposure upon exposure upon exposure. And what my message to you all, those that sit out there and you know that that General Flynn has been mentioned favorably over 59 times in the Q drops. You know that General Flynn was somebody that exposed the DOJ and the corruption done by design. And now you got those entities, because there are entities out there, and they've organized from left to right because you know what? They're trying to bring down the truth, dirty the waters deliberately, playing the different angles, manipulating their followers because they're gullible. You should stop following those entities right now. In fact, you should purge them all. Those that have sat there, and you know who I'm talking about, who have been consistent about going against General Flynn. You should wipe them all off. Why do you think Mr. Ivan Racklin has been going out there and exposing Dan Bongino, calling him a pedophile protector? And Ivan Racklin and General Flynn are together. This is what you got to realize. There is entities out there that are deliberately dirtying the waters, creating havoc, sowing discord, and have been doing this for a very long time. Time to get rid of them. And you know exactly who anyone that speaks ill against General Flynn, you should stop watching them. You should eliminate them. Get rid of them all. And anyone that watches please, I'm going to say this to you all that are watching me right now. Watch my Kraken Retribution Part 1, Part 2, General Flynn. It's out there on the Freedom Channel broadcast on Rumble. It's a 2-part series, and I bring out the truth about Linwood, about General Flynn, about those that are trying to dirty the waters deliberately by design. I exposed with the facts, evidence, and receipts, because they try to make out that General Flynn did something demonic. He said a demonic prayer, and I exposed that for being a hoax, being false. Please watch the Kraken. I have it there, backing everything up. Anyone here that sits there and continues, go and watch it. There's a lot of great content there on the Freedom Channel broadcast. I suggest you go and watch it all. And it's all free, guys. Everything that I put up there is for your benefit, to give you the take. I even exposed the truth about the McDonald's fraud. It's out there on the Freedom Channel broadcast. I was the only one to bring it up. I actually dug deep and I showed you what really went down about this human meat, about McDonald's, and how long this rhetoric has been going on. I'm not saying eat McDonald's. It's garbage. But let's stick with the facts. And I did, and I exposed it. I do a lot of major exposures here on the Freedom Channel broadcast to awaken people, because number one, you got to get it. There are entities out there deliberately sowing discord, spreading disinformation so that we can look like a bunch of idiots, so they can be able to discredit the truth. By spreading this disinformation that's been going on, and I exposed it, it's been a while, about the rabbi that came out and said about putting human meat in the McDonald's. That was all a scam. That was a lawyer. That guy's a lawyer in DC. I brought it all out. And yet this still goes on to the very day. This still goes out there to the very day. This kind of disinformation. And the same disinformation about General Flynn. It continues. Now, let's talk about NATO again. You would have seen that President Trump just recently happened to go down and see Elvis Presley's Grace Mansion, the Graceland, right? You would have seen that. There's a reason for that, ladies and gentlemen. There's a reason for everything. President Trump doesn't do nothing for no reason. Oh, we happen to be in Elvis. Let's just go down to Elvis. No, there's reasons for it. President Trump went over there for a reason to show you, hey, when you went there, you saw Elvis Presley memorabilia, but also you saw he was in the military, wasn't he? He was in the military. They showed his hats, they showed his medals, and so forth and so forth. Why would they do that? Why would President Trump make an example to go there and do this? Because people got to get, let's go back to Elvis's past. Elvis, remember, he went and he was stationed in Germany. Does everyone remember that? Does everyone remember what when Elvis was, when he went into the military? Let's see anyone in the chat. Okay, because you would have seen it, that he was wearing his military, there's pictures of him wearing the military uniform. And why would President Trump go there? And it just happened to be, obviously there's a message there. That message, ladies and gentlemen, is that whenever countries, he went to Germany, when countries like Germany, which is part of NATO, needed the United States' help, they would send troops to protect their interests over there, to protect Germany's interest, to protect their interest, NATO. This is relating to what President Trump says here. There's a reason and a rhyme why President Trump does things. Let's go back to that Q drop. Sorry, back to the Q drop, but also let's go to that post to do with this. NATO nations have done absolutely nothing to help. The point is this: whenever they needed the United States, like Elvis Presley, he made an example and he went there. And he went there and he was stationed in Germany and he was, remember, NATO. This is what it's all about. It's to show that the United States would even send somebody like Elvis Presley that happened to be obviously someone of high regard over there. It just goes to prove that America has their back, Germany's back, that happen to be part of NATO. Well, think about it. NATO, who were the first, shall we say, two leaders to run NATO? Two Nazi generals that were Hitler's Nazi generals. You see the point? The point is this, he's proven it again. We sent our most loved, shall we say, son over there when you needed help, NATO. But the moment that we needed help, where were you? This goes to prove President Trump's point. That's why he went there, and hopefully you guys get it.
Very interesting.
What do you think, President Trump?
It's great. It's part of history. Elvis was history, and I think it was great.
He said the word great. Well, we know also Elvis was into acting as well, you know, and we know obviously Elvis was in movies. What is he telling us also? What is the Q drop says about movies? Did we forget about that one? That actors, movies, great actors. Let's go to that Q drop. Q drop 461. Bring that one up there. What makes a movie good? We know Elvis was in the movies. That's why he kept on saying the word great. What Elvis was also a what, ladies and gentlemen? He was an actor. So there you go. That relates to Q drop 461. Now, people got to get that President Trump does things deliberately by design for a reason. It's to be able to bring out a narrative. Like I said, I've said in the past, every time that he does something, he does a rally. He does it deliberately to bring a certain narrative out. Like when he went to Memphis, you saw it's exposing NATO. We sent America's most loved son. We sent Elvis Presley, didn't we? We sent him over there, didn't we? Right? We sent a good old Elvis. And he went to Germany, like I said, he went to Germany. Let's go there. Now, was it, let's see, when was it? In 1958. It was after the World War II. Elvis served in the United States Army in West Germany, stationed at Ray Barracks in Freiburg. As a member of the 3rd Armed Division, he worked a truck driver and armor intelligence specialist. He lived on the base Bad Noam and met his future wife Priscilla. Elvis arrived in Germany in October the 1st, 1958, aboard the USS Randall. His military role is described there. And it says there also that he was assigned to the 1st Medium Tank Battalion, 32nd Armor, 3rd Armored Division, nicknamed Spearhead. Life in Germany, despite his fame, he served as a regular soldier and he lived off the base with his father, grandmother, and friends. He was promoted to private first class on November the 27th, 1958. Okay? And public image known for approachability. He often signed autographs and took, obviously he was known there as well. But the point is that particular thing has got to do with NATO. It's exposing NATO, that they would send someone like Elvis Presley, and it's like, why are they sending him over to Germany? You see what I mean? Now, like I said, I stick with the facts, evidence, and receipts. I don't stick by others' crap. so to speak. Like, you know, we could sit there and speculate about Bob Joyce. Because at the end of the day, this is what I say to people. Yeah, Bob Joyce plays the game, sits there, sings like Elvis, sounds like Elvis, and then he plays the denial card just like everybody else. That, you know, I've seen it. It's the same rhetoric, ladies and gentlemen. Even with JFK Jr., you got these others like Fusca and the gang that go out there and they play the game of being JFK Jr., but alluding to it. And what it's doing is creating more and more interest in what they want and in their following. That's what it's doing. Realistically speaking, is that going to get us out of the shit that we're in right now? No, it isn't. Is worrying about Diana, who's Princess Diana, who is JFK, who is Prince, whoever it is, you know, are we going to sit there and worry about that garbage? Or are we going to get our head in the game? That's what's important to me, is what's going to get us out of this. Not who's Elvis Presley, who is Princess Diana, who is JFK Jr., because there's so many people out there that are claimed to be, and it's ridiculous. And it's all, they're lapping it up. That's the thing. They use this thing that they allude that they're JFK Jr. I've heard it's just ridiculous, the amount of people out there. And it's just to garner more people, more gullible people to follow them so they can get monetized and make more money and sell their wares. I don't need to name these names. Honestly, I'm done with it. And what I do is I stick with the facts, evidence, and receipts. That's what matters. Now, let's talk about this. Number one, I call this Melania with the freak show. When I mean the freak show, I mean the freak show that she had there, not Melania. I mean them. Meaning Bridget Macron and all the rest of them that were there. And the robot. Yes, the robot, figure 3. I think it was basically a middle finger to Elon. That's the way I consider it. So in other words, Elon Musk, what happened to Elon? What happened to, you know, Optimus? Didn't Optimus make his presence there as well? I mean, we got Optimus, now we got figure 3 as well. Pretty much, we're giving the middle finger to Elon and Optimus. And this is the question. These robots, or figure 3, whatever, when people was hearing that this wants to take over teachers' jobs, they lost their minds. It's like you're replacing our teachers, our pillars of society, let's be honest, with a bunch of components, artificial intelligence. That doesn't have the soul, the spark, the God spark in them, because we all got the God spark. The compassion, the empathy that a teacher would have. And now they want to bring out this figure 3 to replace teachers. But don't you find it weird that you had Bridget Macron, you know, as I like to call Macron's husband, over there talking about freedom of speech but not having freedom of speech? Whereas the United States of America, it's in their First Amendment. And this is all exposure. Now, you know, you see how Melania walked in the, you know, with the robot. They're both wearing white. I mean, obviously the robot's got white external components. And they're walking down, and then the robot starts doing this little speech. But the thing is, good old figure, that particular robot had a mental breakdown, and it's taken it a while to get to do this, to behave itself. Now, what's the thing is, can these robots be hacked? They can be hacked, right? Like a computer, because it is a walking computer. But it's artificial intelligence. It's evolving. It's learning. That's the difference. So think about it from this perspective. That this thing can be hacked. And if it can be hacked, that means it can be manipulated. Whereas that God has put the God spark in us, has given us a soul, has also given us emotions, compassion, or I can't talk about the Zionists. And we use our discernment as well, but judgment, but based on those factors. Whereas artificial intelligence uses strictly, shall we say, well, we use logic too. Logic is very important, but then also we got the compassion and the empathy. That's what the robot lacks. Now, to me, it's like, how can we take, shall we say, obviously Elon down? He's decimated, his reputation's been destroyed. You've seen it. He used to be well loved on the proverbial left. Then he went to the right and the left hate him. Now he's, obviously been hated by both sides. So his popularity's gone down, but how is his money going up? That's the thing. Now, obviously, they've got to bring down these entities, and they're using another, shall we say, they've cut off Elon. Elon wanted to get into the defense contracts. He didn't get in. Think about it. Very genius. He wanted into the defense contracts. He didn't get in. OpenAI got in. OpenAI, Sam, the one that runs OpenAI, I can't remember his last name, but his name's Sam. Let me just get it. Is it not Altman? Let me just see. Is it Sam Altman? Sam Altman. That's correct. Okay, Sam Altman. Him and Elon hate each other. So then Elon obviously created Optimus, and Optimus wasn't present. It was Figure 3 from another company. So they're destroying Elon's, shall we say, ways of having influence over military, over, shall we say, these sort of things, over, because they created this Figure 3 business, this robot, to replace teachers and other things. But obviously Elon wants more money, and he wanted Optimus to run the show so he can have control over Optimus. Now, Melania and she got together what they call the first spouses of obviously the world. And they're taking photos and the robots talking and all that. Please don't bite into it. It's about bringing down certain entities like Elon. So instead of using Optimus, they're using another one. But nothing can ever replace, shall we say, the compassion, the love, the empathy of a teacher. Let's have a look at this. That's why I call it Melania and the Freak Show, guys. That's why I call it Melania and the Freak Show, because it's basically the Freak Show is behind her as well. Now, we know that obviously there are certain entities like MTG, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, and others that have been used for their reach to expose Israel, expose Zionism, expose the controlled elements that run the governments. Now, that's all been done by design. Joe Kent just recently went out on, shall we say, what's his name? There's a, you know when you see something and it's like, oh, I've forgotten his name. He went on this gentleman's show. You know who it is the moment you see his face. Just his name doesn't come to mind at this point. But anyway, he's on his show and he's basically exposing, shall we say, Israel. Let's have a look at this. Oh yeah, Piers Morgan, that's the one. Here we go.
I mean, that was a nasty dig. You married very quickly. Whatever he was trying to infer, it wasn't pleasant. That is personal, isn't it? Did that offend you? That hurt you?
I mean, of course, it's personal. It's not pleasant to hear the president speak in that manner. But look, again, the stakes are really high, Pierce. I mean, my late wife was killed in one of these Middle Eastern wars that we shouldn't have been in the first place. Hundreds of my friends were killed in these wars as well. My entire generation, basically after 9/11, spent our adult lives in war. I did multiple combat deployments. The stakes couldn't be higher. And so really, I frankly don't care what the president says about me personally. Again, I understand because I went out the way that I did, that this is inevitable. What I want all the focus to be on is how we got here and how we get out of the situation that we're in, and how we must restrain the Israelis and how we must use diplomacy with the Iranians to get out of the situation before it spirals further out of control. I think we're at a huge inflection point with the potential of putting boots on the ground, deploying forces into Krog Island, or just having more violence. And
so this is somebody that used to work for President Trump, and he's saying that we should work with the Iranians in a diplomatic way rather than putting boots on the ground and listening to what the Israelis, because he's been going out there and exposing the Israelis as giving the intel, so the intelligence to the Pentagon and all, and those that make the decisions, like the president, and they've been basing decisions that the Israelis have been giving them, which is all manipulated. Have a look in the past. Weapons of mass destruction. That was something that Bibi said back in the day. And it's a consistent thing that keeps going on and on and on. The information is done by design to be flawed so they can get what they want. That's what it's all about. And the propaganda machine is just running through the roof. It really is. So you got here Iranian spies. Look at this. Recruiting British teenagers for espionage through social media. So they're using the Daily Mail as, well, you got to know that also the Daily Mail and all these other, shall we say, like Fox News and all these other, like New York Post, New York Times, all them, they're all controlled by these Zionists. Now, the Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, argued that Israel is the source of peace. Are you kidding me? And stability, where they're the ones that go around causing all the problems. And in the region, they're saying that they're the only ones that should be entitled to nuclear power, not Saudi Arabia, not anyone else. Do you believe the audacity? Then you got this is what I'm saying, there are these entities out there. These are the Israeli settlers that are going out there and pushing, shall we say, the rhetoric that it's their land, and the Palestinians are the ones that own these lands, and they're taking it away. They're annexing even that. And who's been supporting that? Mr. Jared Kushner. He's been, and I've shown you the facts and some receipts, that he's been the one that has been obviously donating a lot of money to these settlers to continue on with that rhetoric and to use every means possible to stamp out people that live there legally and, in the West Bank, and they're doing it. And have a look at what these entities are. So they're These settlers believe that that's their land and that these Palestinians are basically pests and they should get out. Let's have a look at this.
Do something. You don't mind what I did to you. You don't necessarily have to do.
Well, I won't do that to you.
You won't.
No.
We wake up in the morning and think about violence. Why? Our life is good.
Because you want the Palestinians to leave.
No.
You've said so.
I said that what is on my mind all the time is how to bring more people to settle the land. This is a new development by Jews. I don't think about beta.
Why not?
Because I think about I'm a Jew.
There you go. So do you see what I mean? They use this thing of this is our promised land. That's how the Zionists work. That they need more settlers to stamp out the Palestinians.
The people.
I'm a settler.
The people.
I'm a human being.
Yes, you are. So are they.
So I do not think about this.
You're thinking about tribalism, thinking of your own people to the exclusion. It would be understandable to think of your own people or your own children first, but to think about other people, other children, not at all, that seems sociopathic.
I can...
Doesn't it?
No, not at all. This is normal. To my children, I give everything because the normal thing for me is to pray for my own people. That's it. So now I continue. I hope you push me back.
That's pretty deranged, to be quite honest. But that's the mentality, guys. They're going in there and taking land that doesn't belong to them. Then they go around playing the victim with their Zionist propaganda. And this guy is honestly evil. Israeli envoy to the UN is going around with his phone and showing what an air raid siren listens to. How about you show your Israeli Defense Force how they used a cigarette and they burnt a 18-month-old child's legs with it? How about you show that one, Mr. Danny? Okay, how about that one right there? So he's going around playing the victim. This is what I'm saying. This is what they do. Number one, they cause the problems. Like I said, they go and stir the hornet's nest. Then they expect someone to cop it for them. And then in the end, they play the victim as well. Let's watch this.
When you hear this siren, you have 15 seconds. 15 seconds to seek shelter. Think about that for one moment.
You know, how about you think about what you did, what your what your Israeli Defense Force, what they do, go around raping, murdering and torturing everybody. How about you think about that one? And this is what I'm saying, like, they go around and they play the Hamas card. Oh, yes, Hamas. We're going to go to Gaza again, blow the crap out of Gaza and blame it on Hamas, their scapegoat that they created. Hamas is quietly regaining control. Do you see what I mean? Inside Gaza as the war with Iran dominates. So hold on a minute. They're blaming Hamas again. And we know that they fund Hamas. That's all been proven. Hezbollah is their other little scapegoat. They all got these little scapegoats to blame something. To be able to use their Zionist propaganda machine, like back in the old days of the Nazis, the Ashkenazis, there we go. And they're using it to their advantage. Playing the victim, that's all they're good at doing. And even Professor Finkelstein exposed it. How they all play this little game of theirs. And then they use the anti-Semite card to find their way out of everything. And then they use the politicians to be able to garner support from the gullible masses. Yep. That's how they operate. Now, like I said, there's a lot of gaslighting going on. President Trump's doing things deliberately by design to awaken people from their slumber. He's doing it deliberately to anger them. Deliberately to anger them. Now, what you're seeing now is also a plot against President Trump. You think the Republicans care about President Trump? No. In fact, the mega donors are plotting a secret draft for Rubio in 2028. They've already lined it all up. Like I said, guys, there's no loyalty. No, none whatsoever. And that's how they've always worked. Now, Joe Ken has also gone out there and he's been very vocal about Charlie Kirk. How Kash Patel has shut down any investigations, all right? So he shuts down Charlie Kirk foreign intelligence probe. Joe Ken wanted to look into Israel and they blocked it. Oh, shall we say Kash Patel blocked it? Don't you find it quite strange how Kash Patel blocked Joe Kent from investigating and seeing if there's any ties to Israel or other foreign entities? Then you see Alexis, his girlfriend. We know she's a Mossad asset. The one that's going against General Flynn now. The one that dirties the waters and basically Israel all the way, just like Kash Patel is. And then Joe Kent, all of a sudden, is been going out there and doing what he's doing, going around and doing the rounds. Just like MTG, it's all been done by design. People don't realize that there is much bigger things at play. Not everything is black and white. There are many shades of grey. You think it's a coincidence why Joe Kent's doing the rounds now and exposing the state of Israel and how the intelligence works within the system, how it comes from Israel and it's manipulated? No, it's all been done by design. That's what people got to get. Joe Kent is doing what he must. He's been exposing Israel, has been jumping up and down about it. He's also said about Charlie Kirk. I mean, him and Charlie Kirk, he's known Charlie Kirk, and he said he wanted to investigate into what happened with Charlie Kirk. And they're blocking it. Kash Patel's blocking it. The FBI restricted ability to investigate. And then we've got it right here, guys. A reporter actually interviews Joe Kent. Let's have a listen to what he says.
You said that you were stopped from investigating this. Who specifically stopped you?
The FBI restricted our ability to investigate.
The FBI restricted his ability to investigate. Now, when Charlie Kirk supposedly got assassinated, who was saying about running? I mean, who was running the show? It was Kash. Well, you can't sit there and blame Biden, can you?
And did that come specifically from Director Patel?
It did. Yeah, it was part of a discussion that he and
It came directly from Patel. You heard it. Let's go back and watch this again.
You said that you were stopped from investigating this. Who specifically stopped you?
The FBI restricted our ability to investigate.
And did that come specifically from Director Patel?
It did. Yeah, it was part of a discussion that he and I had back and forth, and then ultimately that was the decision that was made.
There you go. So why would you block if you really cared about Charlie Kirk, Mr. Patel, why would you block an investigation that leads over to the state of Israel? And what is your girlfriend, Alexis, says all those nasty things about your friend General Flynn? That's also connections to Israel as well. The other interesting thing is that, yes, Joe Rogan has been very vocal on certain things. He said something nasty about, who was it? Yeah, Erica Kirk. Apparently he said, I've heard that Erica Kirk has got a dick. Let's watch this.
Now it's Macron's got a dick.
Exactly.
I've heard Erica Kirk's got a dick. I've heard that one.
Whoa, well, she seems thrilled right now.
She's an odd duck.
She's a kook for sure.
You ever seen the compilation of her making crazy eyes?
No.
There's a video of her making demon eyes, and every time she makes the eyes, the music. It's so ridiculous.
She's possessed.
Well, she just gets intense.
She's like the guy. What's the gang guy? What's that guy? Oh my God! Look at that. She looks
Watch
like
this.
a televangelist.
Give me some volume. She's talking to Barry Weiss.
There you go.
Watch this. Pay attention to her eyes.
Charlie said or believed things that they believed were controversial or even hateful, that he somehow had it coming. What do you say to people who justified,
you're sick?
Mm.
He's a human being.
Oh boy.
Exactly what Barry is saying. They basically said that because Charlie said or believed.
Okay.
All right. We don't need the Vincent D'Onofrio.
That's not the one that I.
Yeah, and apparently she's got something that she is hiding in the undercarriage. So these things about her is coming out. A lot of nasty things. And again, he went on Tucker and he said the same thing, guys.
Charlie Kirk is killed publicly in a very horrific way, and we're not really even allowed to look into that at all. And Charlie Kirk was one of President Trump's closest advisors, and he also advocated heavily against a war with Iran. He was in the Oval Office in the lead up to the 12-day war.
There you go. So why all the blocks? A lot of very interesting things. And then when you see that Kash Patel, that he's specifically gone out of his way to shut down Charlie Kirk's foreign intelligence probe to see exactly where it all leads. Yeah, we're not buying Erica's garbage anymore. People have had enough of Erica, to be quite honest. I mean, Candace goes out there and exposes her on a daily basis. And let's have a look at this. This is a very interesting one. Joe Rogan, and this is on Candace's. She brings this out on the show, which is very important. Erica Kirk's odd behavior. Apparently, you're doing an acting gig for the CIA. Who called you for that? Yeah, who called Erica to do that? She's doing the Air Force business, and now apparently she's doing an acting gig for the CIA. You know, you're pretty much in everything, Erica. You got everything, your finger in every pie. You're making a lot of money ever since good old Charlie bit the big one. You go out there and you put on your little tears, and we know that's all fake. That's all been proven. I've proven that. Little fake tears. You go around dancing up and down like a clown. You allow Vance to grab your waist, and you wear your rings with all that Masonic symbolism. You've been called to have a dick. Your eyes look very demonic. You are an avid, shall we say, pro-Israel lover. You sit there and you say about Israel like it's the promised land. No, that's where hell is, to be quite honest, at this point. And now you're being exposed. Let's have a look at this.
The biggest podcaster in the world, Joe Rogan. They were so angry because he went on his show and just kind of said water is wet. Take a listen.
Yeah, that Elvis is real. Like, we used to have a fun, kind of playful conspiracy.
Tupac's still alive.
Yeah. And then now it's all out of whack.
Now it's Macron's got a dick.
Exactly.
I've heard Erica Kirk's got a dick. I've heard that one.
Whoa, well, she seems thrilled right now.
She's an odd duck.
She's a kook for sure.
You ever seen the compilation of her making crazy eyes?
No.
There's a video of her making demon eyes, and every time she makes the eyes, the music.
Okay, we're seeing that one. Let's just see if we can find the one where she's talking with the CIA. Well, she's got the CIA. Is it this one here? Let's have a look.
People want, right? That attention, fame thing.
Yeah,
That is what they really want. Okay, so Jamie will find it.
Vulnerable that we've presented to congressional officials. 1 being cyber, 2 being hackers, 3 being physical threats, 4th one is solar EMP, and the 5th one is man-made EMP. So the concern that we have is that we put out this critical information, and when we go over this risk analysis, they hear what we're saying, but they don't want to take action.
Well, there are 18 critical infrastructures. It's weird, but
very weird. She's doing a CIA informational video.
Weird.
Like an acting gig.
Oh, she does everything. You know, preacher, goes out there, preaches about Jesus and God and all that stuff. And then she goes out and does, you know, all these things, you know, CIA. Apparently she's got a dick too. You know, exposure upon exposure upon exposure. And this is what's going on, guys. They're being exposed. And then Ted Cruz is going out. Anyone that believes that Israel killed Charlie Kirk has lost their mind. No. Anyone that believes Ted Cruz is garbage have lost their mind. Let's watch this.
And listen, Joe Kent and Tucker together. So Joe is saying the, quote, darker theory is that Trump is under threat from Israel. Mind you, that's what he's saying. And he also suggests, well, and Charlie Kirk was too. And then he says, now, I'm not saying the Israelis killed Charlie Kirk, but there are questions. Let me say, anyone who believes Israel killed Charlie Kirk, you've lost your mind.
No, you've lost your mind, Ted. In fact, you know, you've lost any dignity that you have. No one trusts you. No one believes you. And certainly, why the hell does he have a bloody podcast? You know, it's not enough that we have to listen to his garbage on every show, like as far as Fox News, all these conservative channels and you know, and then in Congress, then we have to have listened to his stupid podcast as well to top it off. You know, to sit there and praise Israel this and praise Israel that. The whole thing's ridiculous. And you know what? Yes, I'm exposing it. And just like I expose his character, yeah, welcome to your DHS secretary. Right there, guys. This is the guy. That one right there, Mr. Secretary Mullins, he was voted in as a, you know, he was sworn in as the Department of Homeland Security Secretary. And you couldn't have picked the worst one, $410,140. Yeah, the grift just keeps going. And it's exposure, guys. That's what it is. It's exposure upon exposure. And exposure is necessary. The more that they're exposed, the more people wake up. And the more they're not going to believe they're garbage. Now, another thing which is very interesting, this character right here, Mr. Tate, Andrew Tate.
Reopened.
You know, isn't it funny how we had the owner of OnlyFans at age 43, remember that business? All of a sudden bit the big one. And we know that Andrew Tate's been involved in making money off porn, off trafficking. And Eric has had the little question mark as well about the Romanian stuff, which I exposed and brought out on the show in the past. But breaking investigation into Andrew Tate's sex abuse allegations reopened. Isn't that very interesting? Let's have a look at this.
Let's just bring you a bit of breaking news from Hertfordshire Police. They have announced that they have reopened the investigation into sex abuse allegations made against the influencer Andrew Tate. This has just come through to us in the last few moments. We've also heard from a lawyer representing some of those women who have made these allegations about Andrew Tate, but it has been confirmed.
I think this time they're going to sort it out. Yes, that turd that won't flush, hopefully it gets flushed once and for all. And like I said, guys, this has all been done by design. So you see what's going on over in the Middle East, how these people used to go there and live in the Middle East and love life, these influencers, the debauchery, that's what I call it, okay? Now, that's all come to an end. Okay, apparently now it's starting to look like a ghost town. Let's have a look at this.
So I am in Old Dubai, very touristy area. You can see these narrow little walkways all around me, but one thing you will not see are tourists. It is virtually abandoned, which is...
And that's the thing, guys. It's virtually abandoned because that's what they relied upon. So Iran has done a great service in bringing down this whole corrupt Middle East. And it's all been done, like I said, by design. It's all been allowed to happen. Okay. And did you know how corrupt it was? Emirates check-in worker who splashed cash on designer goods, boob job, admits helping gang smuggle millions of dollars in cash to Dubai. That's a place of corruption. It's been on the cards for President Trump to bring it down, and it is being brought down, guys. And then you got Zelensky. You know, Zelensky's going in there, and remember that you had Jared Kushner, and Jared said, oh, well, give me $5 billion, you know, that business, and I will make our president, because they thought they had President Trump under the thumb, look after your region. So there won't be any of these missiles heading towards you. Like, you know, the mafia. You know how the mafia say protection money? Basically, that's what Jared said to them. And you know that it didn't turn out well. In fact, they exposed Jared's little scam, and there's a lot of question marks all over Jared's head at the moment. Now, it's all coming out, guys. It's all coming out. Their little grift, their little scam, Jared's little thing going on. No, it's all finishing up. Okay. Now, it's about time that this whole system of pay to play, because that's what it is. Pay to play. And they thought they could have one on President Trump. Jared thought that he had one on President Trump, and it's all falling to bits. Everything is coming out. And it's all their filth is coming out. And this is what I'm saying. It's having a domino effect. After all, we know that whole area over there, they've been living on the blood of the innocent. And with the blessings of Israel. Now they're talking about Israel. Did you know that people like the mayors are losing it? Oh yeah. They hate being, shall we say, bombarded. Number two, living in bunkers and eating canned food. Okay. So the mayor of the illegal Israeli settlement of Kiryat Shimona launched a verbal assault on his government. No, he had enough for failing to provide protection for its residents. Iranian missiles continue to rain down on Israeli cities and illegal settlements, resulting in tens of thousands fleeing. Either they're leaving and they're losing it. Like this one right here. It's about time anyway.
זו הפעם הראשונה שעיר במדינת ישראל הולכת. 10,000 תושבים היום בקריית שמונה. ואתם מצפים מהם עוד חודש, או לא יודע כמה אפילו, איך אמרת קודם, לא יודעים אפילו עוד כמה, להישאר במציאות העגומה הזו. אתם חושבים שישארו שם? ואם אתם מצפים שעוד חודש, ימים 10,000 שישארו ככה, ישארו 10 אנשים. אלה שלא יכולים ללכת בלבד. כי כבר עכשיו יזכרו את הבומים כל יום. ואם יש לי 4,700 דירות בלי מיגון תקני, או מיגון בכלל, איזה ניצחון זה? לא שולחים חייל לקרב בלי שכפ"ץ, נכון? למה שמים אזרח בחזית בלי מגן? זה המינימום, זה לתת המדינה לאזרח. לשחק לנו ביטחון. כשלתם.
He doesn't sound too happy, does he? Especially when you have to keep living in some sort of shelter, bomb shelter, eating canned food. No. It's not a picnic, so to speak. Now, apparently, he's having a breakdown, but then also another mayor is having a breakdown. Okay, another, shall we say, Israeli mayor. They don't like it. And unfortunately, they're fleeing and they're leaving Israel. They don't care. They're going to the Greek islands now. Did you know that? Anyway.
אנחנו נלחמים על הבית. אנחנו עושים כל מה שאנחנו יכולים פה. אבל אין פה מדינה אחריך. בשביל להצליח אתה צריך מדינה. אי אפשר לבד. גמרתם את קריית שמונה, גמרתם את יישובי הגדר, גמרתם הכל. גמרתם הכל כבר.
Yeah, no, they're pretty much destroying your shit and everybody else's there. And you know what? They deserve it. They deserve everything that is coming their way. Sorry, guys. But you know what? When you see what they've done to the children with the burn marks all over the body, that is enough. They need to all basically be bombed to the shithouse. And they need to reach some hour of humility. Those that believe that their government are doing the right thing in Israel, have a think about it. They haven't been serving your interests. They've been using you as human shields. And you know that. Have a look around you. Your hospitals, your apartments are all built around military installations to protect their interests, not yours. Okay? And obviously Netanyahu is going out there and he's announcing the expansion of southern Lebanon and creating buffer zones. We're committed to doing everything we can. We fundamentally change situation in Lebanon. Yeah, you're trying to take it over.
We have largely removed this threat, but there's still work to be done. We face the threat of a ground invasion, an invasion by thousands of Radwan terrorists above the ground and below the ground. We have removed this threat. It no longer exists.
Do you see how he's using the terrorist card? Hezbollah as an excuse to go and blow up the bridges and keep people in there so they can go and wipe them all off. I'm talking about the civilians. That's what they're trying to do. Now, the thing is, we've got this little tug-of-war business going on in the sense of who do we believe? We've got President Trump saying we've basically got Iran under our control. Then you've got Iran saying we've demolished all the US military, shall we say, Middle Eastern bases, and we're looking out for US soldiers. Then you got Israel that's putting their 2 cents worth as well. And the question is, who do you believe? My answer to that is to look at the facts, evidence, and receipts and use your discernment. And remember that President Trump has to do what he has to do, and he's gaslighting the deep state. He's trying to stop Netanyahu and the deranged Zionist, shall we say, regime from dropping a nuke on Iran. He's doing everything he possibly can. Like he did back in the day with Operation Midnight Hammer. This is a fight, ladies and gentlemen. This is a fight. This is moves and counter moves. There are evil entities that are surrounding President Trump, but at the same time, he's playing, you've heard him say this, a high-level chess game. Pay attention to when he's saying that. He controls the military. He is the commander-in-chief. Now, in the past, think about this. The Zionists have had their hands, or they've always installed a puppet as far as the commander-in-chief. Not just as the president, because the president, if he's corrupted, think about this. President POTUS controls the federal government, meaning the corporation. That's why they got the gold fringe flag. It symbolizes the corporation, the United States corporation. Then You've got the other aspect, the duality, the function of the president, which is the commander-in-chief. Now, the forefathers gave that function so that way, if need be, he can use it for the betterment of the United States of America and its citizens, its people. Now, when you control the president, meaning that element, you also control the commander-in-chief. That aspect right there, think about that. You can utilize, think about it from their perspective, the Zionist perspective, the deep state's perspective, the cabal's perspective, whatever you want to call them. That you control that entity, you can get that entity to use that power that was given in the Constitution to go and do evil's bidding. President Trump, he cannot be, shall we say, controlled in the sense of the way they think. Look at what's going on. Number one, Venezuela. They were going to put in Machado, yes. Bibi Netanyahu, the Zionist, or that, had installed to put in her, Maria Machado. Instead, President Trump used Maduro's vice president. He was working within that regime. He cut off, shall we say, their proverbial lunch. He did exactly the same thing, and I predicted it, and I said it was going to go down with Iran. They were putting up Reza Pahlavi, the former Shah's son. That was done by Bibi and the Zionists. They put him up in exile in the United States. They gave him a lot of money. They set him up in a nice little mansion over there, all protected, all cashed up. Him and his family, for one purpose only. When the time came and they were going to take, this is all in the cards, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to get it, all in the cards. When the time came and they were going to use Trump to do it, or whoever, they were going to take over Iran and install their puppet, Reza Pahlavi. President Trump said, no, that's not happening. He destroyed their chances. He also destroyed the chances of bombing using their nuke on Iran. That was why President Trump created Operation Midnight Hammer, to stop them from executing a nuclear explosion on top of Fordo and blaming it that the material reacted that way on a conventional bomb that they dropped. President Trump has been dealing with these elements. And you've got to remember, people have been saying, let's take down Bibi. Remember, think about the Hydra. You cut one of their heads off, two come back. There are worse than Bibi, like Bennett, the former Prime Minister, thinks that Bibi's not doing enough killing. Not doing enough. You get rid of Bibi, out comes another one to replace him, and even worse. But what needs to happen is to get rid of that whole regime. That whole Zionist, get rid of that whole ideology. It has to go. This is the real evil, ladies and gentlemen. This is the real evil. The evil that has been playing us off from left to right, from right to left. That's the real evil. And using the education system, using the governments, you know, the leaders of the world, using religion, those up the top that pull the strings on all their people, you know, as in the followers. That whole system needs to go. You've got to cut this cancer out. Otherwise, forget it. That's why saving Israel for last is paramount. I want to say thank you to Carol, thank you to Soren, and thank you to all of you. I appreciate your support. Please, if you would like, and I want to say thank you to those that donate. We really appreciate it. It goes towards improving the platform. I'm looking at increasing the levels of shows. That's why I'm in the middle of sorting out the technology so that we have the capability to be able to deliver the current events at a whim and done professionally. So this is where the money that we get, the donations, goes towards improving the platform, getting a better equipment so that you guys get the real take based on facts, evidence, and receipts. And these donations do keep us afloat as far as the expenses are concerned. Now, as you know, that we're dealing with entities that obviously they're not going to monetize us because we are going against their best interests. You know what I'm talking about here. And we got to obviously do with what we can. So please, give to us that give so much and we give everything. We put everything out there. We don't put anything behind a paywall. We never will. We believe that knowledge is power and we are about empowerment. We're not influencers. We're not influenced by anything. We're not influenced by sponsors. We're not influenced by platforms. We're not influenced by money. We want to bring you the truth. That has been my journey from day one, is to bring you the hardcore truth, not to sit here and speak about fantasies, but to give you the real take, to empower you with knowledge. I've always said, ladies and gentlemen, you give somebody a fish they eat for a day. You teach them how to fish they eat for a lifetime. And that's what we do here on the Freedom Channel broadcast. And like I say, please watch our shows. You will get so much. If you would like to donate, you can, there's a QR code here on the left top side on my screen. You can click on that, or you can go to right here, https://link.tr.ee/FCB collective. And you can shout me a coffee, donate, and that money goes towards, as I said, equipment costs, expenses, and improving the platform so you get much, much more. And that's what it's all about. We want to deliver nothing but the best here on the Freedom Channel broadcast on the FCB podcast. And we want to make sure you get the real take. We don't want to sit there and talk about sponsors and your health and all that kind of garbage. We want you to get the real deal. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning in to the Freedom Channel broadcast with yours truly, FCB. Until next time, God bless you all. Don't forget to hit the like button, share this all around the place. Let's get the message out there, organic style. And then also, ladies and gentlemen, please support Dee's platform. Dee gives so much. And I'm talking about Harvey F. Bernard's daughter, the real Nasara. You can go to her Telegram, guys, and please join up and show your support. You can go to her Telegram, and I'll just see if I can grab the details there. But you can also go to the website and learn about the Nasara, the real Nasara. So NasaraInstitute.com. Dee's also got available on Telegram the Nasara Institute with these amazing videos for you to learn. She doesn't ask for a red cent. All she asks for you is your support. So please join her on Telegram. Let me see if I can grab her Telegram details. Okay, and let's have a look. Just give me a quick sec, guys. It's very important that we do support this group. Okay, it's the Nasara Institute. So if you go to Telegram, type in Nasara Institute, it's right there. And you can go there, and she's got all these amazing videos, amazing information. Go to the website, buy her book, support what Dee's mission is. That's all we ask for. We don't advertise anyone else. We advertise in ourselves to invest in ourselves so you get more of the best, more intel, more information, and with also the empowerment. Empowerment is very important. Now, what I want to say to you all is this. Never give up, never give in. There's a lot of things that are happening for a reason. We must remember there are things that are at play. Not everything is black and white. There are many shades of grey. Things need to be exposed. Things need to come to light. And it must make sense to the mass consciousness. President Trump is doing everything that he possibly can to expose this within, obviously, the parameters that are, obviously he's got all these parameters that have been around set, and he's got to work within these parameters. He's got all these entities that are evil that he's got to work within those parameters to expose them. Now, what we need to do is to be prepared. Now, for example, a lot of people are panicking. Don't panic. Even in these sort of situations, do not panic. You can't think clearly if you're panicking. A lot of people are starting to panic buy. In fact, they're going to the pump and they're roaring the pump as in just emptying as much fuel as they can and not thinking about the other people that need it as well. We need to be mindful. We need to be mindful because there are people, out there that also are doing it hard, and they also need our comprehension, our compassion. Now, like I said, you saw what happened with the toilet paper with COVID. The compassion went out the window. I remember going to the shopping centres or the shops and all that, or the supermarkets, and people were punching on, literally in the aisles, like a bunch of animals, like feral animals, about toilet paper. I've seen even older people punching on. While others are just saying, please, I need a roll, I need this, I need that. And they would just basically give them the middle finger. We need to remember, we need to have our humanity. Otherwise, what are we fighting for when we lose that? Yes, we need to be prepared, but also remember that we are all brothers and sisters. We're all in this together. Where we go one, we go all. But when I see there are things out there that are going on, and it's disgusting to be quite honest, like this, there are fuel caps that have been placed here in Australia, $40 fuel caps, ladies and gentlemen, 16-litre purchases to save fuel. Now think about this. Australia has a lot of oil. So why is this happening? Because the price of fuel is determined by the market value of the oil barrel. Regardless, you could have oil coming out everywhere. But then also think about this. Who is the ones that deliver the fuel to the gas stations, petrol stations, fuel stations, whatever you want to call them? It's the trucks. And the trucks need urea to operate, AdBlue. Since they use diesel, they needed to start up. Then also when you got this madness of people, think about this, like the toilet paper went up. The same thing. When there's a huge demand on something, prices go up as well. Now people are angry and they get upset and they take it out on the poor gas station owner or the gas station, shall we say, attendant. They're the ones that hear all the complaints, while these scumbuckets out there that are making billions of dollars are laughing it up. It's exposing also the rot of this whole system. Now, talking about rots, I thought we were going to close up, but anyway, talking about rots, I might as well speak about this. There are those, when there's a crisis, that take advantage of people suffering. Oh, yes, they do. In the time of the Great Depression, the rich took advantage over the, being able to buy property and everything at a song and a dance. Then there are those that have insider trading knowledge, just happen to have it. How's that possible? But it's been exposed. But there are those that are using what's happening now with the, shall we say, in Iran, the war that have made millions of dollars from betting. You heard about that, the betting as well. And then the insider trading, having the inside take and then betting is also making a lot of money. But then it's also exposing the insider trading from these politicians because they've been doing it for a very long time. This is the filthy system that we've been living in. It really is. So not only do they have insider trading to do with the stock market, but there's also insider trading to do with bets. And there are those, like I said, they're making money off the suffering of humanity, but it's nothing new. It's exposure again. Everything is tied to betting. It's disgusting. It really is a disgusting state of affairs that we're living in. That people are making money. And this is the thing. They've been doing it for a very long time, of making money off the blood and the bones of humanity. The insider trading, guys. So minutes before Donald Trump announces on Iran sent global markets into chaos, someone placed a huge bet on oil. And they stood to make millions of dollars. Insider trading, guys. Let's have a look at this.
We need to do some sniffing around on some very, very curious business on the oil market. Plenty of you may have seen the news that there was some suspicious activity.
15 minutes before Donald Trump posted that alert, there was a massive, massive spike in trading of oil, of stock futures, actually different types of oil contracts. Basically, someone went into the market and placed a humongous bet. We don't know who it is, but it sticks out like a sore thumb when you're...
We don't know who it is. Could this be done deliberately to expose this rot? Yes. Things have been done by design to expose this whole system of corruption. So even Bloomberg, futures for oil stock worth billions of dollars changed hands just 15 minutes before a social media post from President Trump sent crude prices tumbling and equities soaring. Let's have a look at this.
As I mentioned, we have market data showing unusual trading spikes in terms of volumes yesterday, in terms of index futures, in terms of oil futures, worth billions of dollars in notional value, changing hands in just the 5, 10, or 15 minutes before President Trump's Truth Social post sent crude prices tumbling and equity index futures soaring. And Aaron Kennan from Clear Harbor had this reaction to the data.
That was an embarrassing moment, potentially, if in fact, as an American, if in fact that was something that could have been avoided. Perhaps, however, there was a communication had across our allies, and perhaps some of these actions occurred from participants in the Middle East rather than within the administration. So I want to be super cautious about pointing fingers at anyone on that front. But it was highly suspicious.
Oh, it is highly suspicious, guys. And this is what I'm saying. This is the amount of rorting that's going on. Traders suddenly bet hundreds of millions of dollars on oil prices falling. And just minutes, 15 minutes, just think about that. 15 minutes before President Trump announced it on Truth Social, 15 minutes prior to that, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, they betted all that just before, 15 minutes before President Trump's Truth Social. This is exposing how it all works, leaks, so forth and so forth. The question is, who is the one doing it? That needs to be shown. That needs to come out. And this is the level of corruption that is consistent. Now, people are saying, oh, Trump's this and Trump's that. It's not Trump. It's exposing that whole system. This system has been continuing to go on and on and on. The other thing that's ridiculous is the Zuck payout. And only the Zuck payout for the, shall we say, the manipulation to children using social media platforms. It's all the others as well. And they're paying, was it $3, $4 something million? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that social media have been getting away with this unscathed. And for them, it's nothing. But it's exposure. Again, this is what I'm saying. Like General Flynn, 1.25 exposure. Setting a precedent in court. Done by design. Then you got social media that's been pushed out there, as in using their social media platform to affect the mentality and psychology of children and teenagers. And that's all being exposed as well. So this is all being done by design. And it's just by, even though it's a small amount to them and they're laughing about it, they won't be laughing about it because a precedent has been set in court. And then also, not only a precedent has been set in court, but the mass consciousness is become aware of it as well. All done by design, exposure you can't put money on, and it's exposure that's been going through the mainstream media. And that's what I'm saying, guys. There's a reason for everything that's happening. We just got to remember things are happening for, obviously got to happen in steps. And I know people want things done quickly. We've had enough. We're fatigued. We're tired. We get it. But at the end of the day, what we need to do is to basically hold the line, very importantly. People are waking up. And like I've said, when you hit people in the pocket, that's when you grab their attention. And they're grabbing their attention now. Before, those that didn't care about what's going on over in Israel, that's okay. How about we do the Iranian war? And now you've got the oil prices going through the roof. Now we've got the food prices going through the roof. Now that your pockets are being hit, that's when we've got your attention. And that's exactly what's going on. They've got their attention because it's hitting them in the pocket. It's hitting them where they deserve. Because only then are you going to grab their attention when you muck around with their money. When you hit them where it hurts, the pocket, that's when you grab their attention. Let me just see. It was just recently. I think it was social. Where was it? I think it was Facebook, Insta. It was a court. Let's have a look. Okay, here we go. So it's called the addiction. That's right, addiction. That is true. Meta create Facebook, Instagram, but not only Meta, YouTube, Google, all of them are involved. So we got this addiction trial. Campaigners welcome Meta and YouTube's defeat in a landmark social media addiction trial. So this is setting a precedent. This is opening people's eyes to what's been going around them. And we know that the algorithm, like TikTok, like all the others, have been created by design using an algorithm to manipulate and to create an addictive, shall we say, platform that also has psychological repercussions on teenagers and, people. Parents and campaign group seeking tighter restrictions on social media have welcomed a Los Angeles jury handing down an unprecedented win for a young woman who sued Meta YouTube over her childhood addiction to social media. Jurors found that Meta, which owns Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp, and Google, owner of YouTube, intentionally built addictive social media platforms that harmed the 20-year-old health. So the 20-year-old health, mental health. The woman known as Kaylee was awarded $6 million or £4.5 million in damages as a result, likely to have implications for hundreds of similar cases. There you go. That's the word right there. Result likely to have implications for hundreds of similar cases that are winding now through the US system. It's crashing, ladies and gentlemen. This is how you bring down the system of debauchery. You see what's going on. Meta and Google, they disagreed. Obviously, they disagreed. To them, it's just $6 million? It's nothing. But it's this, ladies and gentlemen. It's this. It's the implications. It is setting a precedent in the court system that is going to bring this proverbial beast straight down. Meta said the teen mental health is profoundly complex and cannot be linked to a single app. I disagree with that. It's not just a single app, you're correct. It's TikTok. It is your Facebook. It is your Instagram. It is your YouTube, because YouTube controls also the narrative, and all the others out there, like Rumble as well. Let's not forget Rumble. Even though they play the game of being in the guise of freedom of speech and all that crap, they also bring out narratives. They allow, shall we say, lies and deceptions, misinformation, disinformation to spread through their wildfire. And that also affects people's psychology. Have a look. This is unprecedented. And now, ladies and gentlemen, now that the precedent has been set in court, it's time for some justice. It's time for people to see who the beast really is. It's Zionism. It's Israel. Remember, they control social media. They control the mainstream media together with also their friends in the Middle East. It's time for them to take a tumble. Saving Israel for last is paramount, because everything you could possibly imagine connects to there. Epstein Island, let's not forget about that. How that was run as a honeypot operation in order to control huge, shall we say, people of influence. From the entertainment industry, which is obviously has a huge influence over the masses, to the politicians, to everyone you could possibly imagine in the financial world. The Rothschilds, even goes to the Rothschilds. That's apparently now in France. They're going in there and they're doing investigations. They weren't investigating them before, were they? Now they're being investigated, aren't they? Let's have a look at that one. That's a very interesting one, isn't it? So I'm saying this is proof that this whole system of debauchery is going out. The old guard's being destroyed, as Q says. You are watching the old guard being destroyed. See you later. So the Rothschilds in France are currently being investigated to do with Epstein. In the Le Monde, French prosecutors search Paris, branch of Edmond de Rothschild's bank They were protected. They were running the show in an Epstein-linked probe. This is all happening, guys. Before, you wouldn't see them be pushed out. Oh, yes, they're all being pushed out there. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? The Rothschilds, all their little emails and stuff, photos, happy snappies, you know. French financial prosecutor said Tuesday, March the 24th, that searches that been carried out of several locations, not just one location, including Paris arm of the Swiss private bank Edmond de Rothschild, as part of an investigation tied, to the revelations from the files on the Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced American financier and convicted sex offender who died by suicide in New York. Well, that's the jury's out on that one. And obviously sex charges. Now, it's all happening. There you go. This is what I'm saying. This would not be happening, guys, if President Trump wasn't in control. It's all happening on his watch. It's not happening on anybody else's. It didn't happen on Obama's. It didn't happen on Clinton's. It didn't happen on Bush's. It's happening on Trump's. The writing's on the wall. It's just a matter of time. And that's why I say it's important to see the world stage and see exactly what's going on. Yes, we're feeling the pain, but it's all been done by design. How do you awaken the mass consciousness? How do you awaken a sleepwalker? Do you awaken them from, shall we say, oh, please wake up. We'll give you low interest rates. We'll give you low prices on the food. We'll give you high returns. No, you kick them where it hurts. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we're along for the ride. We're along for the ride. All of us are. We're all doing it. But this is all necessary for them to awaken. They need to awaken from a deep slumber that they've been in. And the only way you're going to awaken these people up is in the pocket. I've always said black swan event, and here we are. Prices of fuel or the barrel of oil is increasing. Food is increasing. Prices are going up. And what is that doing? It's further grabbing their attention. It's aggravating them. Then they start looking at who's responsible. Then they start to see other things that they don't like. They don't like seeing children being hurt, sexually abused, tortured. That thing that happened with Iran school, that was done by, as you know, good old Israel again. As President Trump said, we're not the only ones that have tomahawks. He did that deliberately. He's been throwing Peter Hegseth under the bus. He's been throwing Jared Kushner under the bus, as well as Steve Witkoff as well. That they're the ones that give him the advice. All done by design. It's time for this whole system to collapse, and it will. Just be patient. Be resilient. Stay the course. Never give up and never give in. God bless you all, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.